The Inquisitor is back, and in this video we are going to take a look at the conversation between Piers Morgan and Nick Fuentes. Now, I have all kinds of divergences with Nick Fuentes, the love for Stalin, the fat slop that is feeding everyone in regards to the murder of Charlie Kirk. All those things, of course, that we have our differences. But this conversation was spicy, but I'm going to tell you right away that Nick left a lot on the table. So in this video, we are going to break down all the dog whistles, all the jokes that Piers Morgan got right over his head. And we're also going to add a lot of information that, in my opinion, is missing. Like I said, I think that Nick left a lot on the table that could be said and still not put him in any label that he already has, to be honest, anyway. But yeah, so we are going to take a look at this perspective. And like I said, this is going to have a lot of information that you might not be aware of, including the definition of the word Holocaust, because it seems like no one knows the definition of this word, even that is a word with around 700 years. What? How is it possible that we have a word with over 700 years of story and it seems like no one knows the real definition about it? Always remember that certain type of people with small heads and big noses, they are always changing the definitions of words. Even woman. What is a woman? No one knows. What's the definition of a woman? No one knows. What is a Holocaust? No one knows. What is the definition of a Holocaust? No one knows. So if you want to get the truth of what is going on right now in the world, start asking by the definitions before 1940, because that's going to be very, very important. Okay, let's get started. We are going to do a few breaks throughout because this is going to be 2 hours and we're gonna try to cover the 2 hours. So yeah, there is a lot of spicy stuff, so I hope you guys have a good time. This is the second time that I'm watching this. Yikes. Okay, let's get started. We're going to watch on fast speed. Here we go.
You're a New York Times reader, NPR fan, a Daily Wire subscriber, or an avid consumer of all things Tucker Carlson. For several months now, there's been no avoiding the subject of Nick Fuentes. And let's be clear, the main reason you're hearing about him is because he's popular. A large number of people, especially young men, are interested in what he has to say. What that says about our society and our culture is the subject of ferocious debate. For many people, it's a great indictment of an insidious immorality. For others, he's a product of a culture which has turned on its own and left many young people feeling listless and bitter. He's either a litmus test for right-wing hypocrisy on free speech or a walking, talking manifestation of where the line should be drawn. And a frankly preposterous amount of airtime has been spent on debating everything from his ideology to his sexuality and whether anyone should actually talk to him at all.
Like the amount of personal attacks that this guy is making right away, Piers Morgan, is just so disingenuous. It's, for me, it's like intellectually disingenuous, starting to make like all these kinds of attacks and insinuations. And the worst part is that he thinks this is something new. This is a story as old as time. The same way that people are holding a grudge, the same people with tiny heads and big noses, this is a grudge that they are holding for thousands of years. The problem is that when you are holding a grudge for thousands of years, when you don't move from that point, the other ones, the Goyim, all of us Goyim, we keep learning the same things over and over again. Sometimes we forget, but we keep learning the same things over and over again. That's why these people with small heads and big noses, they have been banned of over 100 countries, over 112 right now. It was 109, it's already 112. Recently it was Colombia, because guess what? They were doing stuff with children that is not illegal, right? And they're very popular for this. Going back to the definition of the word Holocaust, Holocaust is a ritual that involves draining the blood of Goyim children and then burning their bodies, and use the blood for their special ritual that is some passing over bread or something like that. I don't know exactly the details, but those were one of the reasons why they got banned from so many countries, because they were grabbing Goyim children, whether they were black or white or any other color, yellow, brown, and they were draining their blood, sometimes raping them, of course, because why not? And then, after draining the blood, they would burn their bodies. And that's where Holocaust comes from. It's a word with over 700 years of history. And you might, I've never heard about this, but if you look about it, it's a Hebrew ritual. So once again, they change a word that is bad against them, and they change it for something bad against their enemies. Wow, who would have thought about that? It's amazing, they are so smart. And because they control the publishers, well, it's very, the publishers, the media, all these things, it's very easy to control the narrative and switch around the definition of these words. But yeah, so just to get started on this topic, and again, all this that Piers Morgan is saying is just, he lives in a reality that is not reality, especially from Britain, that is being controlled by people with small heads for like 200 years or so. Like, he has no idea what he's talking about. His country has been under their control, under their grip for hundreds of years already. So this is nothing new outside of that country, but in that country, like, it's something that, yeah, oh, mind blown. Okay, let's continue.
If I were writing a glossary entry on the Streisand effect, I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture of Nick Fuentes.
They have opted to not do so when it comes to Nazis like Nick Fuentes.
Fuentes takes this guy apart brick by brick. It's a full takedown.
Like, calling people Nazis, it's so lame. Like, bro, oh, you are a Nazi, oh. It's I don't know, is it supposed to be like scary or anything like that? I feel if I would be called a communist, that would be way worse. Way worse. They killed 40 million? They starve people? What? How many millions of people they starve? If someone would call me a communist, someone that is violent without reason, someone that is unfair, someone that steals, someone that starves you, someone that leaves you to rot and die, or freeze and die, right? I think that would be way worse. And most of what people say about Nazis, it's from Jewish publishers of even Marvel and DC, stuff like that. They are all created by Jewish people. They are all created, and all the narratives they promote in Hollywood, all this stuff, it's from Jewish perspective. You never heard any other perspective. If you travel around Europe, and if you talk with people that are a little bit on the older side, they will tell you a complete different opinion, the opposite of everything that you heard about, because everything that you ever heard about for the last 30 years or so, it's being from a controlled narrative. They influence you from a young age on comic books. You think it's by accident? It's not.
Who are a bit more moderate are deeply alarmed by Nick Fuentes.
I was very happy to see that, like, Nick Fuentes really passed that test with flying colors.
That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes.
That's the war. Can you get the beef prices down? Not crazy things that Nick Fuentes or these other loons say on social media.
Well, it looks like all the screaming about Nick Fuentes on the internet is finally dying down a little bit.
So now we had on this guy, this Fuentes guy, and never challenged him.
You should have Nick Fuentes on your show and you could ask him questions about that.
The truth is, it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend all the time talking about Nick Fuentes, but not actually to Nick Fuentes. People who say you shouldn't give him a platform overlook the very obvious fact that he already has a platform of his own, which is often bigger than most of the people complaining, and he uses it to speak unchallenged to his many followers. It's on that basis that I've invited him to appear live and uncensored on my platform, and Nick Fuentes joins me now. Nick Fuentes, welcome to Uncensored.
Okay, this is gonna be spicy. So they're gonna have a conversation. Again, Piers Morgan, typical, disingenuous, is going to do like tons and tons of personal attacks. Nick Fuentes is going to do his usual stuff. Again, pretty soft, in my opinion. There is tons of stuff that he left on the table, maybe because he's not aware. But yeah, and the thing about Nick Fuentes, what he's saying is nothing new. This is something that brother Nathaniel, that is a Jew, he was saying this. You have David Duke. It's all the same thing. We have been hearing these stories. William Piers, all these individuals, lots of historians, scientists, they have been talking about this for ages. Again, it's a story as old as time itself, over thousands and thousands of years. The thing about Nick Fuentes is that because he's edgy, because he's an edgelord, because he's funny, he can put this information in a way that with David Duke, you'd fall asleep. With Nick Fuentes, you get excited and you laugh and so on. And that's why he is so popular. It's because of that. And until people realize this, until people realize that these talking points have been going on for thousands of years, and they keep repeating over and over again, and that's why they keep getting banned from different countries over and over again, will keep repeating this cycle until they control the entire world so tightly that eventually, within a few generations, we'll forget about it. And they thought it was over. They thought we already forgot about everything. But like someone says, maybe the man dies, but the idea never dies. And the idea keeps living. The idea keeps living through different generations. I'm 2 times older than Nick Fuentes, and I know that people older than me are aware of this, and now people younger than me are aware of this. Again, the man might die, but the idea never dies. And again, this is a story as old as time. Let's start hearing this amazing conversation.
Hi, great to be with you.
I don't know you. We've never met. You can correct me if that's wrong. I know about you. I know that increasingly people are talking about you in a more mainstream environment than you may be used to. So for those who know nothing about Nick Fuentes, I want this to be an opportunity to get to the real person. I don't know who that person is, but I do want to use this opportunity to get there. I've seen you talk, as we prepared for this, in exchanges with people and on your show, saying you fear it's going to be very hostile, it's going to be an ambush, all those kind of things. I don't intend it to be overtly hostile. I don't intend to ambush you. I intend it to be an examination of what you said on the record, an examination of what you believe, or what you say you believe, and an examination of what your rising popularity says about the state of the conservative movement in America. So those are my goals from this interview. What are your goals? Why are you doing it?
I thought it'd be interesting.
Okay, we can talk about conservative. What is to be a conservative? Before Nick Fuentes starts, what does it mean to be a conservative? The conservative theme and meaning is thrown around on the right or overall in politics like it's this monolithic that means only one thing, but it's actually not the case. Conservative, what are you conserving? This is what you should always ask. If you're a conservative, what are you conserving? Are you conserving American culture, European culture, white people? Are you conserving the financial system? Are you conserving the tax system? When people say usually that they are conservative, they mean fiscal conservative or economically conservative. Where you have people like Mitt Romney, he would fall in a conservative or fiscal conservative, but this is not the same type of conservative that now we have, right? These Nick Fuentes and so on. This is the real conservative, not the fiscal conservative like those that we mentioned, not the rhinos. Rhinos, for example, are types of conservatives conserving constant wars in the Middle East, conserving the industrial military complex. Yeah, you are conserving those things, but that's not what people consider conservative. You should conserve your culture. You should conserve your genes. Your genes, your pants, you should conserve your genes. And this is the thing that in the past was very common, but since WW2, it got a little bit mixed up, and people got confused about it because we had all these people changing the narrative and changing the definitions of words and putting these masks on words like conservative that means something completely different than someone would expect. Okay. Again, let's continue with Nick Fuentes. I apologize for these interruptions, but it's important to make sure that we understand the definition of these words so we understand the context.
Interesting. And, you've talked a lot about me on your show over the years, and this is the first time you actually extended the invitation. I think it might be the second, actually. I think we talked about doing it during A24 a few years ago, but you've talked a lot about me with the panel, and now you've extended the invitation to talk to me. And I think it'd be interesting for me to maybe clarify some positions and maybe get to know you a little better as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
There is a belief that you have 2 personas. There's one that you roll out now for podcasts and for shows like mine, where you come across as reasonable. And then there's your show on Rumble, where you often come across as having, a very unreasonable view on things. This is what Coleman Hughes said about you.
Okay, so I agree with Piers here. Unfortunately, Nick Fuentes is 100% a two-sided person. Like Tucker Carlson as well, he's not the only one. And it kind of feels like a snake, right? Like a chameleon. You kind of adjust on the place where you are. Thankfully, Nick Fuentes did not act like this in this conversation, but he has done it multiple times. And once again, when he's promoting the Fed slop in regards to Charlie Kirk, well, yeah, that's why we say he's a Fed, because he's behaving like a Fed. He definitely has Feds that are his friends, or at least people that walk around his circle. Maybe he's not aware of this, especially because he's so ingenuous, right? in regards to these big plans, these big conspiracies around people. And maybe because of that, he doesn't believe that is the case. But unfortunately, it is the case. Again, his behavior kind of confirms that he's aware. Like, I don't think he's stupid. I don't think he's that ingenuous. So yeah, is it ingenuous? Naive? Naive would be a better word. I apologize.
Nick Fuentes knows exactly what he's doing. He is consciously playing this double game as part of a long-term strategy to become popular enough to take the reins of power, at which point he plans to pivot towards the extreme and unpopular policies that he advocates daily on Rumble.
So first of all, what is your response to that?
Well, first of all, I would say that Coleman Hughes is a propagandist. He works for the Free Press, which is run by Barry Weiss. So I think you have to consider the source. And Barry Weiss is a pro-Israel partisan. Free Press is
yes,
bought out by
let's
CBS
go.
for $150 million.
Drop the bombs.
His son David Ellison. And so I think that's coming from a particular point of view. We can't pretend like that's coming from a vacuum or from some fixed position. That's coming from a propaganda outlet that's in favor of Israel. That's first. But second, I would say he is right about the two personas. And I think that everybody understands this on some level. On my show, I make jokes and I use rhetoric and I'm hyperbolic because for a long time I had an audience that was small on these like dissident platforms. I was on D Live for many years. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And so I had a small following. And we have sort of like an in-group sense of humor and memes and things like that. And you talk about it one way on a freewheeling live stream when I'm by myself and I'm ranting and we make jokes and we play devil's advocate, we play with different positions. But then when you sit down in an interview like this one and people ask me a good faith question, what do you actually believe? Well, then I clarify and I say, well, here I'm not joking, here I'm not being hyperbolic, I'm not being rhetorical. I'll tell you precisely what I believe. As far as
Okay, so one thing that I disagree with Nick is that it does not have to be hyperbolic. Reality itself, it's so interesting that you don't have to be hyperbolic. And this is where I once again believe that he's a two-sided person, is that he says he's being hyperbolic, where he's actually telling you what he believes. That's why he prefers Stalin over Hitler, because of his persona that is more narcissistic and more authoritarian than otherwise. So yeah, in this specific scenario, his actions prove otherwise. Let's just say that.
As this idea that I'm going to get power and then turn into Hitler, that just sounds totally insane to me. I'll be honest, it just sounds insane.
Do you have aspirations for political power?
Not really. I think that if I wanted to run for office, I wouldn't say a lot of the things that I say. I don't know that a lot of people would vote for me. I tend to offend everybody, even a lot of people that like me. So no, I'm a truth teller. I like to tell the truth. I like to do my live stream.
Yeah, so once again, he says that he tells the truth, like the truth and his truth is something completely different. Many times, and especially recently, as he's becoming so popular and with so much monetary support, he's becoming even more narcissistic than he was in the past, and he's starting to attack his own audience. Like, I can tell you right away that this is not going to go well for you for a long time. If you keep doing the same stuff over and over again, people start realizing that you are not actually joking, and then the value that people see in you will start to diminish because someone else will show up that is going to do something similar to you, and because they are not being offended the same way you are offending your audience, then they're going to transit to some other place. They're going to migrate from your platform to someone else's platform exactly because of that. So tune a little bit down on the hyperbolic stuff and on the jokes, especially when they are not jokes. We can clearly see that they are not jokes. If you really want to stay around for a while, I think your message is important, your work is important, you are someone that is very, very intelligent and someone that is very well spoken, but don't let it get through you. You are very young, very easy to influence right now, and we can clearly see the signs of something that might derail. Let's just say that.
Who is Nick Fuentes? Tell me about your upbringing. I know you grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Tell me about your early years.
Early how? Like my childhood or a little
your
bit
childhood,
later?
yeah.
Well, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in LaGrange Park, as you say. My parents are ethnics. My father's half Mexican, half Irish. My mother's Italian. And they both came from a pretty rough upbringing themselves. They both were raised by single mothers, not because of divorce, but because both of their fathers had died. They endured a lot of dysfunction. And I think that's one of the reasons they came together and they related to each other and they wanted to create a normal upbringing for their children. They wanted to have a normal family life. And so they moved out to LaGrange Park away from the city. And they raised me and my sister and really put us first. I think that's a big reason why I tend to have a lot of these family values or Christian values. My mother quit her job and stayed at home to raise us. And so I have a very close relationship with my parents, with my sister. We're a very tight family. And we grew up in a pretty idyllic town. And maybe we can sort of get into a conversation about politics from this. I loved my upbringing. My mom's...
Something very important about Nick Fuentes and what he's speaking right now, it's the family cohesion. Even if your mother works, and this should be something that you should have right now, it's okay for a woman to work, but they should work less time than the man. If a woman should work like 4 hours, 6 hours maybe, So they still have time to their daily stuff and spend time with the kids, educating them, giving them moral lessons. And it's definitely something that we are missing right now, where we have both parents in the workforce, which is absolutely terrible, because you have your kids being educated by someone else that is alien to your family and to your values. And in this regard, it's great that we know that Nick Fuentes was raised in this upbringing, because that means that at the end of the day, he should have strong loyalty to his own, and that's going to be very important. Your family should always be your friends, your best friends. And this is something that right now in the world, people value their friends more than their family. And this is because, again, it's a cultural dynamic where we became so selfish that we prioritize ourselves so much that our children will prioritize their friends, because their friends will be less selfish, which is against nature. It's ridiculous. Your blood should be closer to you than your friends that have nothing to do with you. So we are on this dynamic that is not healthy for you to grow up in and to create a strong society like we need. And again, Nick Fuentes, coming from this upbringing of a strong family, it's a very good point for him. It's definitely going to show that even that he has this narcissistic personality that needs to be polished a little bit so he calms down, and especially the hormones, right? It's something that at least we know the foundation is good. It's definitely something that we should appreciate.
I stayed at home. My dad was working. We're in a mostly white suburb in Chicago. Everybody was maybe half Catholic, half Protestant. It was a baseball town. I played baseball for many years. In Chicago, we love our hot dogs. We have our baseball parade and get a hot dog. And so I love where I came from. I love the city. It's a working class city. I love the people here. They're very good, humble, down-to-earth, decent people. And I guess I had my political, not to jump ahead, but this is a big part of where my political awakening came from. I sort of left this bubble, if you could call it that. When I went to college in 2016, I went to Boston University, and I read a lot of things online, and I realized the country does not look like LaGrange Park. It doesn't look like Western Springs or Hinsdale or Elmhurst. It looks very different. The country's undergoing a radical transformation because of immigration. And so I saw that, and I said, this is not really a desirable change. I don't like the south side of Chicago or the west side or LA or certain parts of Boston as much as I like where I came from. And I guess that's what made me an American nationalist. I said, I want to preserve my home and the things that are familiar to me and the things I like about my home, what makes it America. So that's a little bit about my background. I don't know where you want to go with that, but that's where I came from.
Okay, so this is extremely important. Nick Fuentes clearly clarifies that he is a conservative and what he wants to conserve. He wants to conserve where he comes from. He wants to conserve his culture. He wants to conserve the environment where he grew up in. This is a true conservative. Not, like I said before, the conservatives that want to conserve the cycle of wars, the conservatives that want to conserve the amount of taxes that you get every month or so when you make a purchase or anything like that. So this is extremely important. It's extremely important. And if you think about it, what is life? What is the purpose of life? Why bluebirds fly with bluebirds? Why red birds fly with red birds? It's because you want to conserve that specific characteristic. It's not normal. It's natural. And because it's natural, it's pure. Unlike something that is technological. Technological is never natural, is industrial. It's all the same. And that's why having this type of values, conservative and preserving what you have, is extremely important. Otherwise, what you have, communism, Marxism, cultural Marxism, all these things that makes everyone a NPC, a grey blob. Are you a grey blob? I don't want to be a grey blob. Nick Fuentes does not want to be a grey blob, and this is extremely important. Let's continue.
My first obvious question is, were your parents immigrants to the United States, or were their parents, or were their grandparents? In other words, at some stage, I presume, there were immigrants in your family who came to the US. Is that correct?
This does not matter at all. This is such a stupid question. It really pisses me off. The United States did not exist as a country. It was created. It was settled. It was settled throughout different centuries. It had Spanish already there. It had French already there. It had English already there. It does not matter. It had Indians and blacks and so on. But again, it does not matter. If you're an immigrant from like 200 years ago, who cares? You are a settler. You are not an immigrant. Immigrant is someone that comes from one country to another one that is already established. If the country is not fully established, then you are a settler. And these early migrants from like the late 1800s or so, the United States was not solid on its own, the same format that we have right now. So this is just a way to make Nick Fuentes look inconsistent. Oh, you are against migrants, but your family is all migrants. Yeah, it does not matter. In this context, it does not matter. On the second hand, you also have this problem that if you are a European going to Australia, if you are a European going to America, does it make any difference? I'm going to tell you one thing after living in many European countries. If you shave everyone's head and everyone's beard and so on, everyone looks the same. Everyone behaves the same. And that's the thing. Your genes give your behavior. That's why if you grab a Portuguese or a Lithuanian or a Balkan or a Swedish guy and you put them in America, they always will behave the same throughout generations. And the same is not the case for other ethnic groups or races or whatever you want to call it. So this bullshit, oh, but you are a migrant or whatever. Bro, it's really not the case. First, again, it was so long ago that probably they were settlers or early migrants that, again, it's not really established. So who really cares? If everything is empty, who really cares if you are this type of settler or not? It doesn't really matter. Again, this is just to change the narrative and make Nick Fuentes look bad because, oh, you are an immigrant and you are against yourself. It's so stupid, bro. Like, you're stupid? No, it's not the case. Again, it's very, very disingenuous.
There were. I believe my mother was fourth generation and my father was third generation.
Fourth generation.
So their ancestors came here on my mom's side in the 1860s, I believe. The first wave of Italian immigration. My father's ancestors, I think they came around the turn of the century in 1900.
So your view of immigration, and we'll get to the specifics about your views on immigration, are they not affected at all by the fact that if it wasn't for immigration, you wouldn't exist as an American?
This is so fucking retarded. Again, they are settlers. They are going from one place to another one that has nothing. If you have like thousands of opportunities, you are not a migrant. You are a migrant when you go to something that is established already, and you are going to participate in that system. My grandfather, he went to the United States, and then he returned to his own country. By the way, he went there to work, and then he returned. This is what all migrants should do. They go there to work, they get some money, and then they go back. They contribute to their society, they get the money, then they go back to their country. But this is not a problem. It should not be a problem at all. I don't understand why Piers Morgan is just trying to push this in a narrative that is unnecessary. It's just lame. It's just, bro, like no one cares. Move on.
American.
Well, I would certainly exist, but like you said, maybe not as an American. Certainly that's influenced in some measure. But I think that the kind of immigration that we had for a long time in the country is different than the immigration that we have now. And let's just say for openers, it's different immigrants. They're coming from a different place with a different culture, a different religion. It's not the same as it was. So first, you have a qualitative difference.
Of course.
My ancestors, for the most part, I have 3 European grandparents from Ireland and Italy, 1 from Mexico. They came from Europe. They came from a society where there's a common ancestry, there's a common religion, common civilization. The people that have come in since 65, since Hart-Celler, they're coming from China, India, the Northern Triangle, Mexico, Venezuela. And so first, they're just different people. Secondly, it's a quantitative difference. There's way more, and it's an unceasing, always increasing wave. For the first 3 or 4 waves of immigration, you would have a major influx of immigrants and then it would stop. And you'd have another wave and then it would stop. This one, it just keeps going up for 35 years. And it's too many. So that's really where I would draw the distinction between maybe where I originate from. I would even just simply call that immigration. What this is an invasion. It's a completely different policy.
But you mentioned...
Absolutely. So this is an invasion. This is not immigration. And on top of that, saying like Mexicans 100 years ago were not white, that's a little bit disingenuous as well. Again, we need to keep repeating this word because, yeah, in terms of, for example, Brazil, where I'm related with, I'm from Portugal, but Brazil was a colony of Portugal. Tons and tons of people were Portuguese. They were white. They were there in Brazil, so they intermixed with the natives, but they also didn't do it. They also stayed separated from the other ones. And the same happened with Mexicans and Spaniards. Spaniards, some of them are from Celtic descent or Roman descent. They have a little bit of Arab. Unfortunately, that's just the case of war. It happens. People got raped and got the stain. Let's say that, all the stains. But it's just a part of history, and it's something that we have to move on from if we want to really move forward with society as a whole, and stop thinking about these small-minded narratives which Piers Morgan is pushing. Like, his mind is so small, is fully focusing on these minor details that are completely irrelevant. And like Nick Fuentes said, most people were pretty much the same, even if they were coming from Mexico, because of the background. But the best part about it is that it was intermittent, right? It was amount of people, and then it would stop. It would give time to assimilation. And because now there is no assimilation, then it's impossible. You don't get diluted with the culture or anything like that. And we have situations like we have in France, like we have in the United Kingdom, where you have multiple generations of immigrants that never tried to include themselves with the native culture, and because of that, they created ghettos where only their culture exists. And this is extremely toxic because the newer generations are more racist than the previous generations. And this is terrible. This is terrible in terms of assimilation. This is terrible in terms of the coherency of society, because this will create more division and more fights between people. Especially in France, where we have 4 generations of Muslim Algerians or stuff like that. We have seen the results of that. We have seen the results. They have full hatred, or even more hatred than the people in their own country, because they are exposed to a society that it's not their own. And again, it's not their fault that they're born there. It's the fault of their parents, but it's their fault that they are not assimilating or that they don't go back to their country. That would be a solution. They can go back to their country. The place where they're born, France in this case, should give them some compensation and then send them back. Because let's be honest, they are not bringing any benefits to the society where they are right now. Let's move on.
Right. You mentioned Mexico in that list, and your father is half Mexican. So, yeah, I mean, by your criteria, part of the invasion would include your father, presumably, and his immediate descendants who came from Mexico.
Not really true, because when my father's ancestors came here, it was a small fraction of the total immigrants that came from Mexico. I don't believe that we should have 0 immigrants forever, or even 0.
Again, this is such a stupid topic, because half of the Mexicans, I don't remember how much it is, but like 40% of the population from Mexico was white. So there is blue-eyed people in Mexico right now. They are full-born Mexicans with blue eyes and blonde hair and so on. So this is just so fucking retarded. Again, it's not about the country where you're born. It's your source, the continent where you came from, the area where you came from. So this is like, it's just such a stupid, small-minded from Piers Morgan. It's again so disingenuous. It's so retarded. Like it's such a waste of time that we have these boomers, like they say, right? We have these boomers that are just so idiotic, so dumb. The society is destroying itself just because they are so fucking stupid and so fucking retarded that they cannot see beyond this small-minded perspective in front of their belly button or something like that. It's just so fucking dumb.
Immigrants from non-white countries. But you have to draw the distinction. My father's father, he was here in the 40s and 50s. It was his parents, or I believe either his parents or grandparents, that came here even earlier. Up until 1965, 90% of the immigrants were coming from Europe. I have no problem with that. If we have 10% of them coming from Mexico or Latin America, maybe that's reasonable, but that's not what it is now. Now you've got 10 million illegals in 4 years under Joe Biden, and you got millions more legal immigrants from China, India, Venezuela, El Salvador, and it's so many with no break for assimilation, and they're all from non-white countries. It's transforming what America is, and again, that's the distinction. That's what makes it unacceptable.
I always believe everybody's a product of their environment. Right? I've interviewed thousands.
Oh my fuck! This is so retarded. So if you are a rat, you are a pregnant rat, but you're born in an aquarium. Does that mean that you become a fish because your environment is an aquarium? Again, this is why Piers Morgan and these boomers are so fucking retarded. It makes no sense. It absolutely makes no sense. What is he talking about in this regard? What's the point? Can you explain? This is the problem, is that they cannot even explain their own logic behind these stupid arguments. It's just so fucking retarded.
of people. I mean, maybe 3, 4, 5,000 people from all different walks of life. But the one common theme I would say is everyone's a product of their environment. And I was reading some stuff about you in the last few days. There was an episode of your podcast where you talked about your father, Bill Fuentes, and how he wouldn't take the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African Americans. We would be deciding where to go to eat, you said. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? It was a running joke. Me and my sister would say Applebee's, and my dad would say we would never eat at Applebee's. Not in a million years should you be caught dead, Fuentes said about Applebee's. Go to a different restaurant, a local restaurant, no Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And you also shared another story about your family and restaurants. So before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist, and that thought process moved to you?
First off, when someone uses the word racism, when the person uses the word Holocaust, when the person uses the word woman, please give me your definition so I can answer accordingly. This is something that I think Nick should always say. Please give me your definition so we can kinda translate or adjust our arguments based on your perspective of this specific word. Now, accusing that his father was racist because he was trying to avoid people chimping out, I'm not sure. I think that's called common sense, right? You know that certain groups of people commit more violence than others based on statistics, so are you going to roll the dice like Irina Zaruska? I'm not sure. If I was a father, which I am, by the way, I am a father, would I expose my children to a situation where they are going to be in danger, putting them with people that might not have the same values or costumes that I grow up with and that I intend to have with my children, put them in risk? Of course not. I'm not going to roll the dice. Our children, they are too important for us. First off, they are expensive. Second, they are the best thing we have. They are our projection for the world. They are our part in the world. They are our extension in the world. Why we have children? Because we want more of ourselves in the world. Because we are good people, right? Good people should want more of them in the world. So this is why you should have more children. If you think you are a good person, have more children because the world needs you. Now, if you're a bad person, if you are a rapist, if you are a pedophile, if you are someone in drugs, if you are someone that traffics drugs and brings the misery to others, yeah, then don't have children, please, because that's called eugenics. We are reducing the bad characteristics of certain people in society, and that's a good thing. People say eugenics is a bad thing. Eugenics is definitely a good thing. It will reduce the amount of violence in the world, like we have seen in Europe. Something that people don't know about eugenics is that in Europe, it was used against sociopaths, psychopaths, and other types of violent people. Because if you delete them from the gene pool, those characteristics will reduce, and that will be a net positive for society. And we are not talking about people with Down syndrome or anything like that, because those, nature already resolved the problem. It's very unlikely for those to reproduce. So again, this is not a problem. What is a problem is for the people with violent characteristics, like the sociopaths, psychopaths, and so on. So this is a great thing. So again, we are not going to roll the dice, and you should want more of yourself in the world if you are a good person. And if you are intelligent, if you are kind, if you are calm, all of these things, it's important for the world. So if you have these characteristics, please have like 10 children or 20 if you can, because that's going to be important for the next generations.
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on
this
anecdotes,
is so low, like it's so dumb.
Yeah, but he's not here to defend himself.
You are.
And my parents are.
You told the story.
And I will, and I'll defend him.
Again, he's putting the label on the father, and the father is not there to defend himself. So, like, again, this is super, super low. It's super, super scummy. But again, it's Piers Morgan. Are you surprised? I'm not.
As I said at the start, Nick, to be clear,
No, it's not an ambush,
Nick, to be
but I
clear,
think
I'm not
everybody
ambushing you. I'm literally reading an anecdote that you revealed on your podcast. It's you that's put it in the public domain.
I know.
I'm simply asking you whether my assessment of that, which is that your father didn't want to take you to certain restaurants because of what you refer to as they were commonly known as black fare, whether that attitude to African Americans.
So, first off, Nick did not call his father a racist. He said that his father had protective behavior towards his children, which is perfectly natural, which is perfectly normal. Piers Morgan is the one applying the labels and turn this self-defense mechanism of yourself and of your own against yourself. This is just so, it's so disgusting, like absolutely disgusting that Piers Morgan uses this type of tactics in order for him to make some kind of argument that Nick Fuentes' father is a bad person. Absolutely disgusting, and he should be absolutely shamed for it. It's the lowest of the lowest.
Americans in that instance permeated to you? It's a reasonable question.
Yeah, no,
It's not a reasonable question. It's not a reasonable question.
And I'll defend my father from the charge of racism.
Sure.
No, my parents are not racist, and they've never been racist. I'll tell you about my parents.
First off, what does racism mean? I still don't know. I ask these people, I ask this question all the time. What does that mean? I don't know. It's crazy. It's a crazy word. I don't know what this means. And that's the thing. These type of words, they change the definition all the time because it needs to fit the narrative that controls you. So always keep this in mind. They are switching these words, and that's why you should feel no guilty with this type of things. If someone calls you this, you should not feel no guilty because the word, it actually has no meaning because the meaning keeps flipping over and over again to be convenient to the people trying to control you. So always remember this. These type of words are weapons, are traps. Keep that in mind.
They used to have a school in Chicago in the South Loop where they instructed people on how to shoot firearms. It was a security school, and most of the clients were black. And I believe actually one of their clients was Larry Hoover's son at one point, sort of a funny story. And so most of their clients would come in from the south side of Chicago. My grandmother, she grew up in the projects of the city. And so my family, being in Chicago, being ethnics, being Italian, Irish, Mexican, in the west side on Taylor Street, all over the city. My family for many generations have lived near and around black people. And look, my views about black people and their views about black people are shaped with experiences with black people. And what they will tell you, what my parents would say if they were here, is that for many, many years, the older generations of black people were very respectful, very humble, very decent. In fact, my grandma used to have an anecdote. She grew up in a lot of dysfunction. Her mother was mentally ill, and they would be having dinner in the projects, and there'd be so much chaos and dysfunction and disagreement and fighting. And she would look across the way out the window at a black family in the other apartment, and they'd be holding hands around the table saying grace. And this is sort of the culture that used to prevail. But now what you have in the city is that there's no accountability for the black people. And now Chicago has become a complete dump because these teenagers go out and they take over the city. They call them teen takeovers. That's the euphemism for it. They're teenagers. But they all come from the same neighborhood. They drive up there and they mug people and attack people and they destroy cars and destroy shops. We had the Festival of Lights a couple of weeks ago. It's supposed to be a family event. And they light up the trees and they, there's a big parade. I was in the parade one year and you had a bunch of black people there shooting each other. 7 people shot, a 14-year-old killed in the Magnificent Mile. And I know there's a lot of black people that feel the same way about this. They say, we've lost control of the city and we're looking for accountability. We have a lot of black people that are always outraged about racism, outraged about attitudes from white people, but they're never ashamed of some of these behaviors, never ashamed of some of the things that go on. And that's why I think there's a lot of negative attitudes these days. And so, again, I think those attitudes, you say I'm a product of my environment. I am, and so are my parents and my grandparents. Unlike you, because you're not even American, in Chicago, we have to live in a big, diverse city where there's a lot of different kinds of people. And I think anybody in Chicago.
Okay, so since Piers is going to interrupt, let's talk about black people. I have lived in Africa, I have dealt with thousands of black people, and like Nick said, the older generations are usually the ones that are the most educated, the most respectful, and so on. Because of their colonial times with white people, they learned through hard work and to coexistence that being this way, having this education would be beneficial for them. They would get work, not slavery. People say slavery. It's not the case because many of these people, they would rather be colonized than be ruled by their own because they know they are absolute corrupt and the worst. And we have to remember that during slavery, it was not white people enslaving black people. It was black people enslaving themselves. And the worst part is that sometimes, depending on the tribes and depending on the country, some of the worst criminals were the ones being enslaved. That's why, for example, with Portuguese slavery and with French slavery, we have very different results. French people, they would enslave the most violent people because they would be results of tribal fights, they would be the criminals, and they would be expelled from their tribe, and they would be enslaved by their own and sell to the French. On the other hand, on Portuguese, there was some of that as well, but it was to a minor degree. And again, because there was a different relation with how they were treated, you would exacerbate their characteristics. So with French, because French people are terrible, let's be honest, then black people become more violent. And on the other hand, with Portuguese, because we are so nice, well, then black people were much more softer and they created a lot less problem. And because we always have this kind of integration in society, we could diminish the results when they still have their own echo chambers, because unfortunately it's just the way it is. It's not easy for people to mix when they are from different races. If it's like somewhat similar, like for example white with Asian, that's easier to assimilate, but when it's very different, like Asian with black, that is quote unquote pretty much the opposite, then it's much more difficult to integrate. And again, you create these echo chambers, you create these ghettos where the bad characteristics exacerbate again. And once again, we go back to eugenics. Because we are not diminishing those characteristics that create violence, because we are not diminishing the culture that creates violence, the gang culture, the rap culture, and so on, you create an environment of eugenics that creates negative traits for society. And this is the opposite of what we had in Europe during the Inquisition, during the Middle Ages, and so on. So we have this dynamic where we have some people getting calmer and other ones getting more aggressive. And of course, this is going to give bad results like we have seen in society. We're going to talk about a topic that no one mentions, which is going to be very important. So let's wait a little bit to talk about that topic as well.
I live in London. It's one of the biggest and most diverse cities in the world.
But it's not the same.
Well, actually, it's a big diverse city. The only difference is we don't have the gun violence because we don't have guns. That's a whole different
Piers Morgan, again, he's such a rat. He's such a rat, really. Comparing London to Chicago, like, it's ridiculous. First off, yeah, sure, London can be diverse in some places. I've been in London, not early on, not as recent as last year, but like maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and it is diverse. But it's not diverse in terms of Africans, it's diverse in terms of Indians. And you remember that, how do you say it? In the Indo-European culture, the relationship between Europeans and Indians, it has been going on for thousands of years, much more than Europeans with Africans or Indians with Africans. And because of that, there are more similarities between both of them. Some of the cultural traits, some of the linguistic traits as well, they are much closer than, again, the relation between Europeans and Africans. And because of that, and because of the behavior of Indians, having a multicultural society in London, it's not the same thing. Like, Piers Morgan is just so full of shit because he's making false correlations, right? Because it's not comparable at all. You cannot compare those things that are completely different in terms of biological sense and even in terms of historical sense. It's absolutely dumb. It's retarded.
Different story. I don't want to get into that with you. I have got into that before.
You got a knife problem. You got sword problems.
We have problems. We have problems with violent crime. I make no pretense of it. So the idea that somehow I'm cosseted in London because I'm not in Chicago.
I didn't say that.
Well, you can imply it, but I guess my point about the environment. I'm not saying you are a product of your environment. I'm saying most people are in some capacity. When I read that,
Again, this is not true. You are a product of your genes. You are a product of your society. It's relating this to your environment. Again, it's not the case, because if you take people from Europe and you send them to America, they create Europe in America. Again, they create their own environment. Their genes, their mindset, their brain structure will push them to create what they have at their home. So, again, he's acting like we are like the Tarzan, right? You're born in the forest and you become like a gorilla or something like that. Is that really the case? Again, go back to that example I gave. You are a rat, but you are pregnant and you give birth on an aquarium, so you become fish, right? It's just so fucking retarded. It's so ridiculous, really.
Anecdote, but just to remind you, it's not something I have put out there. You told this story, right? And you said that
You said this. We're looping. You said this already.
you haven't really directly.
He's repeating so much.
Which is whether your father would not
so
take you to
boring.
certain restaurant chains because he associated them with black Americans. Is that true?
No, well, see here, if you're in America, you would say that Olive Garden is not real Italian food. Applebee's, TGI Fridays, and stuff is a load of crap. My dad was just a food snob, but no, it's got nothing to do with that. My best friend in first grade was a black guy. We're not a racist family, so.
Okay, so when you told the story, I'm just curious. So when you told that anecdote, which clearly on the face of it is racist, right? You're basically saying your father made racist decisions about where you would go as a family to eat. Are you saying, well, I'm just going to ask you a question. Are you saying that when you told that story, you didn't mean to infer that he was racist? And do you understand why when somebody like me reads that anecdote for the first time, as I did this week, I reach a different conclusion? Why?
This is a big problem, again, because we don't have the definition of racist. What is a racist? I don't know. Is a racist someone that notices the difference between races, the biological differences, the bone structure, the brain structure, the digestive system, and so on? Is this what a racist is? Is a racist someone that discriminates with someone being from a different race compared to other race? I'm not sure if that's the case. We have seen that in society, most of the problems we have, it's more of a class problem rather than a race problem. And that's why different cultures have this coexistence between them. And no one gives a fuck if a billionaire is black, right? You are still going to take him to the restaurant. Not me. I would not do that. But some people would do that because, again, their focus is more of a class struggle than a racial struggle. And we have seen more of that throughout history. It just became a problem now because, like Nick Fuentes said, it's just so much. It's just so much at the same time that becomes impossible to ignore and impossible to absorb or to dilute. Extremely important. So until we have this definition of the word, it's very, very hard to have even proper arguments in regards to this. And again, this is something that Nick Fuentes, if he's going to have like all these debates and so on, that he should request in. What is the definition of this accusation that you are making?
I understand what you're doing, which is a sort of making of a murderer. How did he become racist? Well, his father didn't eat Olive Garden because he said that's not real Italian food.
I'm literally reminding you of something you said on your show, which led me to conclude a certain thing. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, it was said in jest as a humorous anecdote, and now you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is his parents are racist. He comes from a long line of racists. And I think everybody knows my parents are boomers. And these people come, well, you're a boomer, I guess, too. In a way, right? You were born in 19, yeah, so you're a boomer also. Or maybe you're a Gen Xer, I suppose it's sort of on the cusp. But it's a humorous anecdote. These are kind of the attitudes of baby boomers in society, but you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is you're a product of your environment, your dad's racist because of this joke, now you're a racist, and I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay, people can make...
We have to remember that being quote-unquote racist, again, I don't know what this means, but I'm going to assume that a racist is someone that sees differences between races. And this is something that it's natural. It happens in any type of animals, whether it is cats, dogs, and so on. They are going to act adversely against something that they are not familiar with. And unfortunately, for many types of races and things like this, again, even going back to the animals, it's something that is completely normal. If you have, let's imagine, we have some kind of dog. You have Rottweilers. Then you have a hyena. Then you have a coyote. And then you have a wolf. You think they are not going to fight between each other, even that they are pretty similar in terms of genetics? Of course they are going to fight. Again, this is something that is normal to all animals. All animals. So to say that this is all beyond the human expression, well, then I'm going to use the same argument when we are talking about homosexuality. Because if you are so smart that you can ignore race, why you are not smart enough to realize that you don't put a pee-pee into the poo-poo? It's just a fair argument. If you put a situation like that, it's just a fair argument. We have to understand that these are natural instincts and we are animals. So we are motivated by these instincts that are of self-preservation. And there is nothing wrong with self-preservation. That's like basic human right, even that a human right is not a thing. But if you value life, self-preservation is one of the foundations of life. Let's keep it like that.
Make their own minds up. They can go back and listen to you say it. I mean, the beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have said and asking you what you meant. Your position about that story is that it was a joke, okay? I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talk about...
This is the thing. It does not have to be a joke. You can explain things in a way that makes sense without having to be jokes, because it doesn't have to be a joke. Self-preservation is not a joke. Let's be honest about that.
Jews...
fair about that.
Take a listen.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Again, he didn't say anything wrong, and he didn't say anything that is not true. Women should not be in politics. That's normal. They were never in politics for the last 5,000 years or so. So why are they now? Because it's convenient for the people that control us, because it's easy to manipulate women through emotion. Plus, women don't go to war, so why should they vote? If you don't go to war, you don't vote, bro. It's just the way it is. Because we are giving our lives to defend these people. And because of that, we have the right to vote, and they don't. It's that simple. In terms of Jews controlling the world, we just have someone being elected in Mexico to become the president, and she's a Jew. And it's like a 0.0021% population of the entire country. It makes no sense. Why that small minority of people are always trying to undermine the institutions? Why they're always the ones getting the most funding? Why they always have the ones that have the most propaganda being pushed out? Because they have this intention. They want to control the entire world, like Nick said, and that's just a fact. That's just a fact. That's just the objective reality. There is nothing wrong about that. That's no like personal bias or anything like that. It's just the reality of it, and that's why it needs to be stopped, because it's unnecessary and unhealthy, very, very unhealthy. When you have the 0.001% to make decisions for the interests of someone that they hate, because it is the reality. They just hate all of them. So it's not even against whites against Jews or blacks against Jews. It's everyone against Jews, or Jews against everyone. That's the thing, because we are all goyim, right? We are all cattle for them.
Okay. Would you like to clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true.
100% true, yes.
Including that blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
Yes.
But all of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever the percentages of the murderers. I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetime, so maybe let's say that, 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about black people who murder people?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah.
But you didn't say
that's
that. You just said blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. You didn't clarify that you were talking about black murderers.
Right. No, you're right. That's a good addition to that. That's a great point.
Do you think it's funny? Or
I think, yeah, I do. I think it's hilarious. I think it's totally true.
do you think a black American would find it funny? Do you think that blacks should be imprisoned for the most part?
Black?
I think blacks would totally agree, especially the ones that are being killed by the ones that are doing the killing, right? It's the ones selling the drugs and the ones buying the drugs. This is something that it's not normal. And if you go to Africa, this does not happen to such a high degree. I mean, depends on the society, right? If you compare Angola to Somalia, well, it's a different story. People in Angola, they have way better behavior because their tribes are of a good value in terms of culture, while in Somalia, they are all pirates. They have a culture of stealing from others. So again, it's normal that some blacks are going to agree with what Nick say and others will not, because they are the ones committing the violence. And we cannot keep this narrative that black people are just this monolith, that everyone thinks the same way, because it's not the case. The same way that there are different ethnicities within whites, there are like different phenotypes or holotypes or something like that. I don't remember the word right now, but hologroups. We have these different hologroups that make you Celtic or Germanic or whatever else, that give you these intrinsic characteristics about your own being. The same goes for blacks. You have people from the Congo, you have people from West Africa that are completely different. They are all somewhat black, but because they are from the same source, they all have in common Homo habilis, but that's not the case. And we cannot assume that everyone is this monolith, because it's not the case. That's why some blacks have more tendency to be Christians, others have more tendencies to be Muslims, and others have more tendency to just do voodoo stuff and crazy stuff like that. So again, and this coming from Piers Morgan shows the lack of awareness they have from these topics. They were never challenged about this type of things. They never had to think about this type of things, and to act like all black people believe the same shit is just not reality. It's just not the case.
Blacks are my biggest fans. I get high fives all the time. They say, Nick Fuentes, I love your show. They agree with me. And you want to know why? Here's the difference. Black people are the most victimized by other black people. You think black people want to live in the hood and the ghetto and get shot all the time? That's what happens in the south side of Chicago. You should come here. I'll take you there. We could go to Garfield Park.
My son went to Chicago University for a year, actually, several years ago.
Yeah, that's a bubble. That's a bubble. You think you're in Chicago, Hyde Park?
I was out on the university. It's like those people that go to Africa and they stay at a 5-star hotel and they were like, oh, I was living in Africa. I was at 5-star hotel. But that's not Africa. If you want to live in Africa, you have to go to the middle of the tribes. That's where you get the real experience. And they will respect your culture. They will ask you to participate and so on, but they will not want to force you into their own thing. And you should also not force them to participate in your own thing. It's all in terms of respect for the culture that you are participating in, or not participating, coexisting with. That's why many immigrants, let's say that's why many immigrants, when they go for a certain country, they don't have any problems because they respect the original culture. If people go from France, where they eat cheeses, to Germany, where they eat sausages, and they don't have cheeses in Germany, let's assume that, so you're going to eat the sausages, and you're going to participate that, and you are not going to complain about it, because when you start complaining about it, because, oh, I miss my stinky, smelly cheeses from my home, then that's when you start creating division and inertia, I think it's inertia, between each other, right? And this is unnecessary. It's absolutely necessary. When you go to someone's house, you respect their rule. Basic stuff, right? And it does not matter the country. Even in your own country, if you go to a friend's house and they eat vegan food, well, whether you like it or not, you are going to have to participate on that ritual. But that's the way society works. You respect what people do in their own homes, and you don't impose yourself into others. That's a type of fascism, no? It kind of is. It's just the way it is. Let's move on.
You don't know Chicago. Go a little bit west, see what it's like over there. And I'll tell you, black people agree with me because they're tired of it too. And maybe not most of them, but a lot of them agree with what I say about that because they know how it is. That's why the first thing they do when they make a little bit of money is they go and leave to another neighborhood.
Okay, so just remind me again, the percentage of black men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
It's 1 in 100.
No, it's 1 in 20.
No, not true. Of course.
Less than 1 in 100 black US men commit murder.
Even if it's 1 in 100.
That's not true. I've seen other statistics. They say 1 in 20 will eventually commit a murder.
So your rate means that you're saying that 5 times as many black men commit murder as the official crime statistics say?
Yeah, there's a report, I believe, on X by Data Hazard. I'll have to go and double check that for you. But yes, there's some pretty shocking evidence that says that it's far more alarming than you would think.
Okay.
So this is very unfair from Piers Morgan, is that he's working with his team. He has the team on AI, on Grok, or the other thing, I don't remember. What's the name? I don't remember the other AI thing. It's so unfair that he's using these search tools to come up with answers against Fuentes, and he does not have the same. He does not have a team working for him. And the worst part is that what Piers Morgan is saying, it's not true. It's absolutely not true, especially when we know for a fact that many of the results are being changed against whites. They are calling people that are Mexican whites. They are calling people that are blacks whites. And when we have this change on the statistics, well, you're going to have really bad results. And that's why you might have a 1 on 100 compared to a 1 in 20, or which either way, it's extremely high. It's extremely high. We are talking about 1 million people. It's hundreds and thousands of murders. If Piers Morgan thinks this is something reasonable, it's not the case, bro. It's not the case. Grow up, boomer.
But you would accept that the official crime statistics are 1 in 100? Or you wouldn't accept that statistic?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but I've seen other evidence. Like I said, Data Hazard on X, I believe, produced a report about a year ago. It said 1 in 20. But I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean,
it's a lot of people, bro. What are you talking about?
It's about proportionality. I mean, white people are 65% of the population. Blacks are 13%. And I think anybody would tell you that more black people proportionally commit violent crime than white people. And people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass
what's with the
shootings.
interruptions?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, you look at in Chicago, in New York, these neighborhoods are so stratified. People would rather pay a high tax rate. They'd rather pay a much higher property value to live in a less diverse, less black neighborhood because they don't want to live around the violence. And I think that when you look at even on the public transit, the subway, the Blue Line, you know, people don't want to go there because they know who occupies and menaces the public transit. It is these people like Daniel Penny had to deal with. It's people like Irina Zarutska had to deal with. And that's just the uncomfortable reality.
You just don't want to roll the dice. You don't want to set yourself in a situation where you're going to be in danger. It's just the way it is.
Also said you don't want to live near black people. Let's take a listen to this clip.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. You know, I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And you call me racist? Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
By the way, this thing about Christianity, doesn't it say the Bible that you had all degenerate behavior, and then God sent the cataclysm and they split all the people into their own tongues? If I remember correctly, that's what it says. So it seems like God wants to split people to their own tongues. So the fact that you want to live with your own, the people that have the same tongue as you, the same language as you, it seems pretty reasonable according to the Bible. So using this Christianity narrative or a Catholic narrative or whatever else, it's just such a fucking pile of bullshit. Absolute dog shit. And on top of that, once again, if you want to conserve your culture, if you want to conserve who you are, if you want more people like you in the world, it seems reasonable that you don't want to have your own children mixing with other ones. And we don't even have to talk about all the health problems and mental problems that you have from mixing. And I can tell you a lot about that. And we're going to talk about that if it's necessary for this conversation. But we can leave it for another video in the future.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really, unless you want to say that's another of your jokes. But you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Again, what's the definition of racist? What is the definition, Mr. Piers Morgan? Without you giving a proper definition of the word, you keep throwing this. You can even call him Teletubby. Like, who the fuck knows what that means? No one knows what it means. So please give the definition when you are throwing these terms, because different people will have different interpretations of the results of the definition, unlike Holocaust. Because Holocaust, again, it's a word with over 700 years that talks about Hebrew rituals with Goyim children, draining their blood and burning their bodies. Let's not forget the definition of that little word.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
You 100%. You really got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make him feel
because my father's. He's not. Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to everyone's a racist.
Again, being quote-unquote racist, and I'm going to try to use this definition of Piers Morgan is trying to imply, it's a natural behavior. Animals have this behavior, humans have this behavior. It's something that is absolutely natural. So, like Nick Fuentes is saying, that everyone is racist, it's true. It's true. When you are a white liberal woman that pretends that is pro everything and wants to help all the little ones and whatever else, all the quote-unquote minorities, even that only white people are the minority in the world, when you have this type of white woman, as an example, doing this type of behavior, when they get confronted with a situation where their life is at risk, these racist impulses that you have of self-preservation, they will activate right away. So once again, what Nick's saying is absolutely truth. It's absolutely natural, and it's something that you just have to realize that it's like breathing oxygen. It's just the way all animals are like that. Because again, it's self-preservation, and that's totally fine.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody. The difference is you're attacking my father. You know,
I'm not attacking your father. I'm not attacking your father.
You are.
No, I don't know your father. And to be clear, I have no knowledge about him at all.
Well, then let's leave him out of it. Let's leave him out of it if you don't know.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply.
No, again, you are changing around the context. It was not that he said. You are switching around the context to push this narrative that Nick Fuentes' father is a bad person, when clearly it's not the case. You can be racist and still be a respectful person. Because, again, being racist should be someone that notices that there are differences in the races. And even if you are like that, it does not mean that you have hatred in your heart. This is, again, Piers Morgan giving his own perspective, what racist means. And this perspective, this definition that is implying, is not defining, is implying. I would say that most people are not like this. Like 99% of the people are not like this. Because racism is not from hatred. It's a completely different thing. And this is much more something that Jewish people Jewish people are the ones that are really racist. That's why they came up with this word, because they are the ones that hate everyone. Hatred is something that motivates you to do harm to others. And this is what they do. Unlike white people, unlike black people, I mean, maybe not as much, or maybe not on purpose. But like Nick said, to their own detriment, white people are the least racist, the most anti-racist, and this is just a fact. That's why we end slavery. Not to other races, not to the Arabs, not the Indians, and so on, and not even the blacks themselves. So, again, Piers Morgan is absolutely wrong, and this narrative that he's pushing is just so low IQ, such a scummy tactic to make Nick's family, and the father in particular, look bad. It's just disgusting.
Reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you said publicly. That's not unfair. That's not me targeting your father. You put that story about him out
You know
there.
what you're doing. You know what you're
I'm
doing.
asking you about a pretty shocking anecdote, which to me looked like you were saying your father made decisions about where you as a family would eat based on skin color of people who worked at these places. If you say that is not what you meant, that's fine.
No, roll the dice. Self-preservation. Don't roll the dice.
Well, you are, and you know what you're doing, and there's a political culture in America where if you have the wrong views, you can fire from your job. And my father has a job, and if you go on here and say,
disgusting,
you charge him with racism or something, and I'm put in a position where I don't look like I'm sticking to my guns if I don't say my father's a racist, you're putting him in jeopardy, and he's not here to defend himself or explain his views, and it's very low, and I think you know exactly what you're doing, and people can see what you're doing. I'll defend my views, and I think that, so let's leave him out of it. Let's just not talk about my father, because my father isn't here. I'm here.
Okay, well, then you accept you shouldn't talk about listen, that's fine. But then you accept you shouldn't talk about your father on your show, and you shouldn't tell.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
so
not.
It's fine for you to put a story out there which would make most people who listened to that story or watched it at the time on your show conclude that he was racist. It's fine for you to do that. But if I then ask you about it, I'm the one who's being unfair and I've crossed the line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Noticing patterns, noticing behaviors, it's not racist. It's just the way it is. If you see that the floor is slippery, you should not run on it because you might fall, right? So noticing patterns, noticing that the floor being slippery might be dangerous, tells you that you should not walk there and you should definitely not run there. So again, there is nothing racist about that. Self-preservation is not racist.
Yes, you're being malicious.
Okay, that's fine.
Absolutely malicious, 100%.
They can draw their own conclusions about whether what I just did. Yeah, I'm sure afterwards, by the way, you'll say, he ambushed me with your own words. With your own words.
This is the worst part. It's not even an ambush. It's just a flipping of the narrative that is just so low IQ and dumb that it's intellectual dog shit. Let's say that. It's intellectually dog shit. This is what Piers Morgan is doing throughout the last 20 minutes or so. It's terrible.
That's a little presumptuous. I'm not going to say it's an ambush, but I think that's a low blow. And I think you know what you're doing, and that's fine. You're a talented journalist. I expected that. I don't think it's an ambush because I knew it would be like this. And people will see what you're doing, and I think they'll say it's low. But as far as you want to talk about racism, let's talk about racism. Let's leave my dad out of it.
Look, you've admitted you're a racist, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Own it.
Okay, that's fine. You're perfectly entitled in a free democratic society to stare down the barrel of his camera and tell me you're a racist. People can judge you accordingly. Many people who have assumed that you're racist will now have heard it from your own lips. That's fine.
Who cares? Who cares about these labels? Who cares? Bro, wake up. The world is not the same that it was 20 years ago or so. No one gives a fuck anymore. No one. Not Asians, not Indians. Maybe Indians a little bit because they are trying to take advantage of this. But really, no one gives a shit anymore. Except the people in America, people in Canada that are trying to benefit from the society, the systems that white European people created. It's just the reality of it. So stop with your bullshit, absolute bullshit.
The point of this interview is to go over the things you said, which have led people to reach conclusions about you, and to ascertain whether those conclusions are fair and reasonable or not. That's it.
So repetitive.
This is what you talk about, why white people are justified in being racist. Let's take a listen to this.
First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
Of course, because they are in danger. Okay, we're going to talk about something very important. Why should white people be racist? You know how many people have the KKK killed for the last 100 years? How many people have the KKK killed? Black people. How many black people have the KKK killed? Or people in general? They have killed less than 5,000 people. Over the last 100 years or so, since the KKK existence, In total, they killed less than 5,000 people. Do you know how many white people, black people alone kill per year? 5,000. 5,000. So we are in this situation that, yes, all white people should be racist in terms of self-preservation because your life is in danger. People use the KKK to excuse, this tragedy that was this organization, which I do not support, but the reality of the fact is that more people get murdered every year by black people than the KKK killed throughout the last 100 years. And this is for a fact. You can check it. No problem. Let's continue.
Stand by
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So white people should go out of their way to avoid black people. When they
Yes.
Absolutely. They would be wise.
Why?
Self-preservation.
Because it's a lose-lose proposition. If you're Irina Zarutska and you don't walk the other way, you get stabbed to death and you die. If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine. It's a lose-lose proposition. So no, I think that white people
Never roll the
white
dice.
people have been beaten into submission. That we're afraid to tell the truth about it. And the truth is that when you go into these major cities like New York or Chicago, I believe she was in North Carolina, there is a menace.
It doesn't even matter the city, whether it is France or Lisbon or Berlin or New York or Chicago or anywhere, or it is Luanda, or it is some other, the other one from South Africa, Johannesburg or whatever. It does not matter where you are. You are always in a situation in danger when you have something foreigner to you. Whether it is a person, whether it is an animal. If you see a lion coming towards you, I'm not going to be a racist against lions. Because he's just a big cat, right? He's just a big cat. He's not going to kill me. This is the type of level of retardation that Piers Morgan lives in. This is just so fucking retarded. Like, bro, wake up. What the fuck are you doing?
Which is young, black, adolescent men. They're extremely violent. And we have been told that we have to pretend like they are every other person. We have to be colorblind to that. And we're supposed to go and be in the midst of all this danger. And I think that at this point, it's gotten out of control. You look at the BLM movement, they said that the reason that black people are violent or the reason there's crime is because of police brutality. Or redlining or all these other things. They said we need to get rid of the police. We need to defund them. And a lot of cities did. A lot of cities like Chicago, for example, the police changed the rules of engagement. They don't chase them. It's not a felony if you steal a certain amount of merchandise. They won't chase them on foot. And now the city's totally up for grabs. And now whether you're in the Gold Coast or whether you're on the Mag Mile or you're in the worst neighborhoods in the city, you might get shot, you might get mugged, someone might run up on you. And I tell my followers, it is better to be perceived as racist or racist and walk the other way and maybe keep your life than to say, I'm a good anti-racist. I don't mind that this person's making me uncomfortable. Maybe he's looking a little froggy. I'm going to sit down because I'm a good person and get stabbed, mugged, whatever. And by the way, this is a strategy. They call it the friendly stranger. There's a crew of them. They do this in Chicago. They stand outside bars, black people, they approach strangers. It's a robbery crew, and they pretend to be a friendly stranger, and then they mug them. And stupid white people say, hi, yeah, nice to meet you. They grin, they laugh, they put up with the nonsense, and then they get mugged, or worse. Sometimes they get executed. And so as a white person.
How do you feel about mass shootings at school?
Piers Morgan gave no feedback in regards of what Nick said because it's 100% truth. It's 100% truth. It doesn't matter where you are never going to roll the dice. And again, this is on something that is completely foreign to you. It doesn't matter even if it's a black person. It can be a Mexican person. It can be even other white person. If you see something with strange behavior, you are going to avoid it. There is nothing with racism. It's just basic self-preservation. You are not going to roll the dice on a situation that looks fishy, and then it's just a matter of statistics. A white person that is drunk, for example, you have like 20% chance of being in danger. If you see a black person that is with rap culture clothing and looks a little bit strange with golden teeth and stuff like that, you are at a 60% ratio of being mugged or attacked or anything like that. You are at 60% danger. This is completely normal. This is absolutely normal. Self-preservation plus pattern recognition plus statistics. And this is going to be something that you learn throughout your life. Some people say that, you're born a racist or something like this, or like he said, it's the environment that creates your personality. It's not the case, but of course you are going to absorb the information and your experience that you have throughout your life, of course. We are not robots that get a program in, a CD. We are not NPCs, right? We are not NPCs. And if you are not learning from your experience, it's because you were on echo chamber, on a bubble that you're extremely protected, and you're never exposed to dangerous situations, and you're never paying attention to the news or culture or anything like that. Or then it's the opposite. It's a place where you have so much experience that you can recognize all these patterns even from a mile away?
I think they're bad.
Who do you think commits the vast majority of the mass shootings?
I'm sure it's white people.
Right. So how do you feel about that?
I think that white people do more antisocial violence. I think black people participate in more gang violence. I think that's a difference.
What's the difference to the victims?
There's no difference to the victim, but it's a different kind of crime, and it's a different proportion also. Do you know what percentage of white people are school shooters?
I know that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools in America this century were perpetrated by young white men. And
what proportion of?
I'm curious whether your advice would be to people who have kids in these schools. Should they avoid white people at school? Should people with the kids at school avoid young white men at school?
This is so fucking retarded. Again, Piers Morgan is just low IQ or dumb or retarded or I don't know. This argument that he's using is just so fucking stupid. Yeah, sure, there are more school shootings that are made by white people because there are more white people, but there are also school shootings made by black people too. So again, the difference between is the amount of people. If you have like millions and millions of white people and one does a school shooting, you cannot judge millions and millions because it's the level of proportion. If you have a 1 in 99, it's not the same as 1 in 20, right? And Piers Morgan is just, again, it's low of the low. It's just so terrible. This guy, it's just, I don't know how to say, just so fucking dumb, so fucking retarded, so fucking disingenuous. He's intellectually dishonest. It's just what it is. Like I said, intellectually dog shit. Something that I went, do I forgot about this? I forgot. I wanted to say something, but let's continue.
Cool.
No. Okay. Do you know what per capita means? Do you know proportionality? There are more black people proportionally that engage in violent crime or are involved in gangs, especially in these major cities, than there are white people that are school shooters compared to the entire white population, and everybody understands that.
Two-thirds of mass shootings at school perpetrated by white people.
But what proportion of white men commit school shootings? That's the question.
I've just told you.
2/3 of school shootings are made by white people, but there are 5 times more white people than black people. So these 2/3, it's actually a lie because you have so much more black people in proportion, right? When you balance the proportions, 2/3. But the other one, it's times 5. 2/3, the other one is times 5. When you put the calculations, then you have much more black people committing school shootings in proportion per capita, like Nick says, than the other way around. So once again, Piers is actually justifying what Nick Fuentes is saying, but he does not want to clear the numbers, right? Because if you analyze the numbers and you see the real results, the proportion of the results, then his narrative falls off entirely. It's based on nothing.
It's 60-65% of school shootings by white
You're telling me what proportion of school shootings are committed by white people. I'm saying what proportion of white people have committed school shootings. Are you playing dumb or are you just not that smart?
What's the difference? The children
It's so fucking dumb. Like, this is so fucking retarded.
Now you want to jump on the victims. The difference is you're asking, would you fear...
Oh, okay. I remember what I wanted to say. What's the difference between the victims? What is the difference between a victim from a school shooting and a victim from gang violence? Well, most of the times is that the school shooting, unfortunately, is fast and it's over. While on the other hand, many times gang violence and the type of violence that we have seen, for example, in South Africa, where we have white genocide going on, is that we have torture on top of murder and rape. We have all this combined in a package that is delivered on white people. And this is the same for gangs. Many times the victim first is raped and then is tortured and then is killed. While on the other hand, it's not exactly the case. So the victim themselves suffer a lot more. And once again, because a lot more black people kill white people, then there are a lot more victims or family victims of the family victims than the other way around. It's just the way it is. So there will be more white people suffering. There will be more white people suffering the consequences of the other people's actions than the other way around. So again, Piers Morgan, all his arguments are wrong. It's so fucking dumb. Like, there is nothing you can grab. Oh yeah, Piers Morgan won in this specific scenario. So far, we are like 1 hour in, zero, absolutely zero, absolutely dumb, retarded bullshit all the time. It's just so fucking dumb.
or white people or black people, and that's the difference. The difference is in
What I'm
terms
saying
of
to you is, by your logic, if we now have agreed that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools are committed by white people and predominantly young white men, then presumably
It's not the case when you put in proportion, because you said it yourself that 2/3 is white people, but again, the black population is 1/5 of the white population. So once again, when you adjust, then you have black people actually committing more school shootings than the other way around. I hope that Piers Morgan knows like basic math, because this is extremely important. If you don't understand these type of things, you have to go back to school. You have to go back to that Chicago school where you said you were to learn basic mathematics, because this is important.
your advice would be to avoid young white men because they perpetrate these massacres. But it won't be because they're white, right?
So fucking retarded. Like, this is so stupid.
It's about proportionality. You are because you're, well, I don't think you are dumb. I think you're smart actually, but you're deliberately avoiding per capita. And everybody knows that's the difference. What proportion of white men are school shooters? It's probably 0.00001%. What proportion of black men have committed violent crimes? It's probably like 5%. I guess, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's very high. And I would add to that, even as it concerns schools. Why do you think parents pay a super high property tax to live in a school district where there's white people? Because they know that if they go to the black school, it's going to be the Bloods and the Crips. It's going to be gangs. It's going to be, you talk about school shootings. Nobody talks about all the school shootings that are committed by gangbangers in and around the school and all the other violence that's associated with that. I mean, these schools in the south side of Chicago, it's just not
I have an answer for you, Nick. So the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings is actually the same. Why?
For white people, the proportion of, again, are you hearing it? No.
I think the trouble with your statistics is a lot of them don't bear much scrutiny. We have a bunch of fact checkers checking all this in real time because you do have a tendency to just come out with it all alone. And when you say,
fact checkers,
it's true.
Checking in real time. Oh my God.
With reality, you don't like it.
What's the figure? What proportion of white people have committed school shootings? With white people as the denominator and white people that have committed school shootings as the numerator, what's that percentage?
For both black and whites, the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings generally is about the same.
No, tell me the number, and then,
and yet you're only focusing your attention.
Really terrible.
The black shootings, the black crime. You don't want to live around black people. You want to avoid black people. You don't want interracial marriages or relationships that may produce black people. And yet, when I point out to you that there are many parts of crime in America where actually there's a majority of white people that perpetrate them, you don't care. You don't have any interest in that. It doesn't exercise your mind.
No one's buying this. This argument lost. No one is buying this. Everybody understands per capita, and people can even see what you race ahead and say, well, we're comparing the proportion of white and black school shooters. I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue, is that you're very likely, if you encounter black people or a young black man in the city, that you're going to be the victim of a violent crime, of a robbery, a mugging, a car theft, a carjacking, or a murder. That's the difference, and it's about proportionality, and everybody sees past that, because we all live in reality. You want to talk about product of your environment? People that live in New York, Chicago, LA, we live in reality. We live in this environment, and we see what it's like, and the threat, the danger, in terms of probability, it's not even comparable. And I would add.
Okay, so one opportunity that Nick missed out here, and it was a very easy argument, is just to say that clear statistic, the 55 to the 12, do we have the 55-12 or 60-12 or something like that? Because it's just a case. When you put it together, you have black people committing like 30 times more crimes or murders. It's not crimes, it's murders. We are talking about murders, violent murders. The 50-12 or a 60-12 or whatever you want to say, depending on the results of the statistics, it's just the reality of it. And when you adjust for the same number of the population, then you have black people committing murders at a 30x compared to white people. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. So no wonder that people have to activate their self-preservation mechanism and run to the other side of the road to don't be in danger, because you never know what to expect. You cannot roll the dice. It's just the way it is.
I would say this, to your point. If you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare, and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles, you're going to run also. And I'm saying this.
This is what I was saying before, but at the same time, the white kid that Nick is talking about, we are talking about a difference of 20% danger, 30% danger compared to 50 and 60 and even higher percent of danger. So it's a good analogy like the one I did before, but you should have also introduced the percentage of danger where we should be based on patterns, right? We are talking about based on patterns, of course.
The same thing. The difference is the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. In Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens all the time. How many mass shootings committed by autistic SSRI white people? I don't even know. I mean, it's probably in the single digits in the last decade in the city. That's the difference, and everybody knows that. But you're really just trying to carry water for liberal ideology. It's an ideological position.
No, I'm really not. I can absolutely say, yes, there is way too much black on black crime, for example, involving guns in
black
Chicago.
and white also.
Yes, but there is way too much gun violence in Chicago, right? I mean, it's indisputable. I've got no problem saying that. The difference is I don't then lead myself into a thought process where I have to avoid all black people in case they shoot me. And you've already conceded that you are a racist. So when people hear you then say, I don't want to be living anywhere near black people.
So this is, again, it's so fucking stupid. It's I hate this guy. And I don't hate him. I'm just being hyperbolic. But it's not about gun violence. It's not about gun violence. We need to stop with this narrative. And Nick needs to start saying this because it is the case. It's not about gun violence, sorry. Because you look in France, you look in Germany, they are throwing punches, they are throwing stones, they are throwing kicks, they are sucker punching people. They are backstabbing people. They are stabbing people. They are beating them with sticks. It's not about the guns. Stop using the guns as an excuse. The gun is just the easiest weapon to use. But all these other scenarios have been happening since ever. So again, focusing just on the guns, like the guns are the problem, it's not the case. It's the people using the guns. It's the people committing the violence. And again, it's not the whiteys. It's not the retarded people that Nick is talking about, because like he said, it's like one in a decade. It's the opposite. It's absolutely the opposite. And this 60-12, it's based on violent murders or murders as a whole. We are not even talking about other types of violence. So let's keep that in mind.
They already have heard you say, I'm a racist, so they assume you're doing that because of people's skin color. I don't think you would probably dispute that, right?
Well, you're separating two different things. The monologue when I said I don't want to live around black people, that was after Irina Zarutska got shot. And it's true. I mean, they are largely in this city, in Chicago, south side, the west side, huge criminal population, and I don't want to live anywhere near it. And I do. I want to live in a white neighborhood. I think that that's extremely desirable. And I think even black people.
Again, Nick, you're perfectly entitled to that view. But when you have obviously prefaced all this by saying, I'm a racist, unashamedly, then people will assume that all your thought processes about all of these issues are driven by an aversion to people based on their skin color, which is the purest personification of racism.
Well, it's not an aversion. I would say it's the opposite. I like my own people. My own people are familiar to me, and I think that's true across the board. I think that people seek out other people that are like themselves, and every other group does this, whether it's blacks, Hispanics, Asians. I get a lot of attacks when I talk about that I'm against interracial marriage. And what's funny is that every other group is against interracial or interethnic marriage. Jews, Chinese, black people, Hispanic.
This is absolutely truth, and we're talking about self-preservation as a basic human right, as a basic element of life in nature, in the universe. The other one is the self-preference. The self-preference. People will always prefer others that prefer the same things they do. That's why we have football clubs or soccer clubs or baseball clubs, whatever you call it, or basketball clubs. That's why people interact, because they like or the color of that team. For example, I like green, so I like Sporting. Other people like red, so they like Benfica. And the same applies to this type of things. And this type of behaviors create the culture and create the society where you live in. That's why certain types of group have certain types of behavior. This self-preference, these choices that you make throughout your life, and the people you surround yourself with, again, like now in a positive side for Piers, yeah, sure. If you surround yourself with people that have the same behaviors as you and the same preferences, then of course you're going to have a cohesive society. Now, it might be a violent society, like some favela on Brazil or something like that, or it might be like some IKEA store in Sweden where everyone is building the closets and things like that. And by the way, this is not realistic, because if you go to Sweden now, it's crazy violence with all the Somalians and the Pakistanis and all these things that they have there now. So this is just an example that I remember from the first time I went to Sweden, because the second time I went there, it was no longer the case.
Racial marriage.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable.
Not really.
Not really. Sure.
No, you're the product of interracial marriage.
We forgot to mention the interracial marriage. Jewish culture is the one that is like, you always have to marry with your own kind. And it's kind of wild, because they have all this, especially like Jewish women, they have this fetish for black men, which is absolutely insane. That's why they are pushing the blackhead propaganda and so on. They have this massive fetish between them because Jewish men, usually they are extremely weak. So they have this fetish of the slaves revolting and so on. And it's true. What they practice after, in terms of their population, is that they just reproduce with themselves. And if you go to China, if you go to Japan, if you go for most places throughout the world, this is something extremely common because it's against nature. It's against nature. You want to see more of yourself in the world, and that's why you have this self-preference. This changed a little bit with the creation of technology that allowed you to travel from one continent to another and face cultures that are very different from your own. And the problem is that when men, especially men, or even women, let's say men and women, when we are exposed to people that are not your own, and when you are excluded of your own people, it's more likely for your brain to adjust to the new reality and push you to have these interracial relationships. And that's why when we had the colonization of the world, this happened way more frequent because it was just a reality. Now, when we have a melting pot, which I don't like, but when you have a melting pot where you have two different races together, this is less likely because your self-preference keeps going back to the same place. Even that you are being confronted with something different, you are going back to the same place because it's natural to have self-preference. There is one last thing to say about this, is that people that suffer from mental problems or from problems on their upbringing, or they were raped, or they had some kind of domestic violence or anything like that, they are more likely to commit these type of things because it's a type of self-punishment. And this is something that everyone knows in regards to psychology. Even that some people like Jordan Peterson and so on, they like to hide these facts because it's inconvenient for the narrative. So let's leave this topic on the table and move on.
Marriage, and your father is part Mexican. You're literally the very person you just told me you want to avoid.
This is something that we mentioned in the past. We're going to repeat once again, but like 40% of the Mexicans were white or white descent or anything like that. So accusing his mother of being like some kind of degenerate because he's doing like interracial or whatever, like it's so fucking retarded. Like Piers Morgan is just so fucking retarded. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
What race is Hispanic? Is that a race?
Well, what do you think it is?
I'm asking.
Hispanic. Where is Spain? Where Hispanic? Spain was Hispanic? Is it in Europe? I don't know. I'm Piers Morgan. I'm fucking retarded.
And you, what race is Hispanic?
Hispanic. Of course it's a race. It's called Hispanic.
It's a mix between two races. It's a mix between indigenous Americans and Europeans.
It's so fucking retarded. It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
No, really, you just keep saying you only want to live in a white neighborhood, but you're literally from a mixed race background yourself. You literally have Mexican blood.
I know, and I live in a non-white neighborhood too. I'm trying to get out of here, though. I'm trying to get out. But here's the thing.
Do you have any non-white friends? Genuine question.
Most of my friends are non-white. Most of my friends are not. And non-white people love my show.
How many of your friends are black?
Many of them, like at least a dozen.
Wow.
Yay.
At least I have no friends. The best part is having no friends. You don't have to deal with these problems. You don't have any of these type of low blow accusations. Oh, how many black friends you have? Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? Zero. The best number you have is zero. At least you know for sure that you're not going to roll the dice. Don't be ashamed of not having black friends of other races. Who gives a fuck about that? How many Chinese friends you have? How many alien friends you have? Who gives a fuck? Zero. Zero is good enough. It's not something that you should be ashamed for. Again, it's a self-preference. There is nothing wrong with self-preference. You should like yourself. You should love yourself. When you look in the mirror, you should love who you are. Because again, nature created you in this way, and what nature tells you? To reproduce, to give more of yourself to the world. So again, this is why you have self-preference. Otherwise, nature would kill itself. Does nature kill itself? No. So don't feel shamed for this type of narrative that is absolute dog shit, intellectual diarrhea. It's intellectual diarrhea, absolutely.
Ye being one who you know, Sneeko being another who you also know.
Yeah. So how do they feel when you say you just want to be away from any black people, walk away from them?
Well, you know what Ye told me? I'll tell you verbatim what he said, but it doesn't come from a place of...
What Ye said? I want to know what Ye said. It's so dumb that they cut to this. I hate it that they cut to this because now we don't know what Ye said, right?
When you use the word aversion, that's the first thing I'll actually dispute. Okay. It's not an aversion on the basis of skin color, because that would seem to suggest it's like a stubborn, irrational bigotry. I don't consider myself a bigot. I consider myself a racial realist. I'm realistic about how the races are, and I speak provocatively about it, and I speak provocatively about our tribalistic instincts and tendencies as human beings. And I'm not a liberal ideologue that says that over time and with enough education, we're all going to see this great brotherhood where we're colorblind and everybody's the same. I don't think that's ever going away. I think that race is real. It's not just skin deep. It matters to us and it matters to each other. And black people know that, and Hispanics know that, and Asians know that, and people like me that have partial Mexican ancestry, we know that too. And I think on that...
What Nick is saying here is 100% truth. You are always going to factory reset. What people say, when you are in an adverse situation, you always go back to factory reset. And at the same time, wasn't Piers Morgan the one that said, trust the science? Trust the science, bro. You should trust the science. What does the science say? The science says that, like Nick said, it's not skin deep. The way your brain is interconnected, it's different between whites and blacks. In terms of DNA, white people, they have Neanderthal DNA. Black people, they have Homo habilis DNA. Their bone structure is different. The penises, supposedly, the blacks have much bigger. That's another one. Their hands, their feet. One have feet more to climb mountains. Other has feet to climb trees. The shape and the fingers of the feet are completely different. So again, it's not skin deep. And if you trust the science, like Piers Morgan believes, you are always going back to the same place. The factory reset, the self-preference. And again, there is nothing wrong with that.
On that basis, we can have mutual respect and understanding, not aversion based on skin color.
The reason I use the word aversion is you literally said that you should walk the other way if you see black people. That is an aversion to black people based on their skin color.
No, that's called economy of information. That's economy of information. That's safety. And I said in the same monologue,
Safety.
if you watch it, it's like, I feel sorry. The problem is you click the 10 seconds. I don't know if you watched the whole show, but in that monologue, I said, most black people are not violent or criminals. I said, and it's unfortunate that we're going to offend them when we turn and walk the other way. I said, but
Again, this is a big problem, but it's not our fault that we have to protect ourselves. And the black people that are nice, they need to understand this. We cannot roll the dice. If you're a nice black person, we are going to run away from you, but don't be offended by that. It's just the way it is. After, you just have to show us that you are trustworthy. And if that's the case, then we are going to treat you respectfully, and then we can talk, and then we can be friends. No problem with that. I mean, even that I don't have any friends. But there is no problem with that. It's okay. But you should not be offended just because someone went to the other side of the street just based on self-preservation. It's just the way it is.
the problem is we don't know. We can't tell. And someone like Irina Zaruska, she sat down in front of a black man with her headphones in and wasn't paying attention because she was being a good liberal and said, I'm not uncomfortable by this. I'm progressive. Then she got stabbed in the neck. And I said, it's unfortunate that you would have to sit behind the black man to be safe. And if he's not violent or schizophrenic, he might be offended by that. I said, but I would rather offend him than die.
How many deranged white men have committed atrocious acts of murder in the last 10 years in America?
Proportionally far fewer. Far fewer.
How many? Do you know how many?
You have a research team. You pull it
No,
up.
I mean, you're very big. You're obviously extremely exercised by that one story, which was horrific for the record. Absolutely horrific. And should never have happened. The person who perpetrated that evil act had a string of previous offences and should have been picked up more, and it should have been amplified more.
Okay, so Piers Morgan is using the Irina Zaruska. Oh, this was just one case. It's not one case. We have, once again, 5,000 white people per year being murdered in the United States alone. Look at France, look at Germany, look at Belgium, look at England. It's everywhere. Black people are killing white people in crazy numbers. Irina Zaruska was just the most popular case that there was because we had footage. And all the other cases that we don't have any footage. What about those? Those don't matter, Mr. Piers Morgan. Again, the level of intellect that this guy is applying to his arguments is just like on the lowest. And again, I'm not going to give him props to Nick because Nick is also not being like, he's not pushing on the narrative. This is like basic talking points. It's just basic bullshit. And Nick should be pushing a lot more on these topics that are just facts than he is, which is unfortunate.
I completely concur with all of that. But I just suspect you have no idea how many white people have committed similar crimes, do you?
No, because I know it's far fewer from experience.
Okay.
Because it's like you said. Well, and hang on, and I would add to that, Irina Zaruchka wasn't the first one. That was also after Austin Metcalf was killed in Texas.
Sure.
After
How many times has it been perpetrated by white people?
Well, hang on, let me finish my point.
But you're implying that white people don't do this. And my point to you, Nick Fuentes, is of course,
I never said white people don't do it.
deranged white people commit heinous acts. But you don't either know,
disagreement.
you neither know nor care, or maybe both. Maybe you do know but don't care. You only seem to be focused on black people who commit crimes. And again, if you hadn't prefaced the whole debate about
because they commit a lot more. Because they commit a lot more than whites. Because they commit a lot more than Asians. Because they commit a lot more of Hispanics. We can talk about why. We can talk about why the whole day. But again, it's just a fact. It's just a fact that if you are exposing yourself to a situation like this, you are in danger. What's so difficult to understand about that? And again, Irina Zaruchka, it was just the most popular case in one of 5,000 per year for the last at least 30 years or so, if not more. So yeah, that's a lot of people.
Openly conceding you are a racist. I could read other connotations into what you've been saying. Well, once you've said, I'm a racist, and then you only talk about black crime, I think people can watch this and they can say, yeah, he's a racist. And everything that he says about crime is driven through the prism of being a racist who judges people according to their skin color.
Well, it's funny because it's quite on the contrary. And I said this in a similar monologue. The problem is not that I wake up and I walk down the street and I see someone that doesn't look like me and it makes me angry. The problem is there's a pattern of behavior, which we've all seen. Blacks in America have become narcissistic. And they become narcissistic because they've been told they're victims of racism, they're victims of slavery. They've been told, really, there's no accountability. If they're rude, if they're inconsiderate, if they're criminal, they are told that they have no agency for their actions. They're being told, if you act in this way, it's because the white man made you that way. It's because the system's rigged against you. And so we've been telling black people this for a generation, and now there's no rules. Now they go, and what we hate to see as decent people, not even as white people, but decent people, even black people too, what we hate to see is rudeness, obnoxiousness, inconsideration, criminality, violence. And that's that pattern of behavior that we see all over social media.
So just to be clear, you don't like black people who play the victim and are rude. Is that your position?
I don't like that pattern of behavior.
And you're a narcissist.
I see where this is going.
Yeah, you're ahead of me.
Turn this around on
you're
me.
ahead of me, aren't you? Because when I said, what black friends have you got? You said,
I am kind of black, aren't I?
No, not that. You said,
yeah,
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying your choice of black friend is Ye, who is arguably the #1 black victimhood narcissist in America.
Okay, let's be honest. Is Nick Fuentes a narcissist? Yes. Is Ye a narcissist? Yes. But what Nick said, is it not true that most black people, they have been influenced by Jewish people and liberal white men and women that are usually communists or Marxists or anything like that? Is it not the case that they have been influenced by those people that, the white man is the oppressor, the white man is causing all the problems in your life. You have no accountability. You have no responsibility over what's going on in your life. Is that not the case? And it's not only about black people. The same goes for white women as well. Because all this feminism bullshit that we have going on, all these dysfunctional families that we have going on, all these divorce cases and stuff that we have going on, it's also for the same reason. So it's not just something that affects black men or black people in general. It's something that is affecting white women as well. And it's now spreading to Asian women as well. And what's the source? Propaganda from Jewish Marxist, quasi-Marxist, like Charlie Kirk used to say. They are the ones pushing these narratives, the feminism and the victimhood mentality, the patriarchy and the slave owner and all this bullshit. That is just not true. You just have to take responsibility over your actions. If you do something wrong, you have to be accountable for your actions. And that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And again, it's not even just black people. But now he's trying to flip on Nick Fuentes. Again, I agree that Nick Fuentes is somewhat narcissistic, and the same goes for Ye, but that alone does not justify what he's trying to imply. But let's try to listen or understand the whole thought process.
So he's your friend. He's one of the very few black people you want to be associated with, but he's the epitome of what you just said you abhor about narcissistic black people.
I disagree. I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. Because Ye, if you've ever met him in real life...
I have, yeah.
Okay, well, then you know. He's nothing but polite, considerate.
Actually, he was very rude to me the last 2 times I interviewed him. He's a supreme narcissist, and he's also...
You keep interrupting me. You're very rude, aren't you? Are you black?
I apologize.
Are you black? You are interrupting me all the time. So, again, because Piers Morgan had 2 bad interactions with Ye, is exposing his own racism. He said he was not racist, and now he's saying that Ye is like this. Like, bro... try to decide. So what's up? Do you see a pattern? You have pattern recognition or no? Because you were acting or you were speaking like you were colorblinded, and now it seems like it seemed like you are feeling something from Ye that you didn't felt otherwise. So he's basing his experience based on his last two interactions. Imagine if everyone would do this in regards to black people or Jewish people or Indian people or anything like that. Imagine, let's try to use the same thought process of Piers Morgan, and he should look in the mirror and think about it, and then expose its own racism, because he is just doing this right now.
Right now.
To you.
I'm giving you a hard time, but I do want to finish my point. I do want to finish my point about Ye. He is a guy who, when I was with him, wanted to make sure that everybody was heard, everybody felt included. He's actually a very soft-spoken guy, very polite, and by the way, not violent. When you look at all the rappers that are in the music game, many of them, especially from Chicago, drill rap, they're talking about killing people, shooting people, they gangbang. He notably, if you know about him, he got his start because he was a nerd. He wore a backpack and a polo, and he wasn't a gangbanger. He rapped about his feelings and girls and his dreams and his ambitions. So no, and by the way, he would tell me all the time, he doesn't even feel black. They make him feel not black because he doesn't do those things, because he's soft-spoken, because he's artistic, because he's a bit of a nerd or likes fashion. So I would disagree. He's actually not like that at all.
Okay. He's also a Hitler-loving anti-Semite. And we're going to take a little commercial break here. I'm going to talk about anti-Semitism.
Okay.
And
what is the definition of anti-Semite? Again, we have another term being thrown around. What is the definition of anti-Semite, so we can answer accordingly?
Views about Jewish people, and indeed what Ye said about the same subject matter. Okay, back on Nick Fuentes. Let's turn to anti-Semitism. In your interview with Stephen Crowder last week, you answered emphatically that you don't hate all Jews. Is that correct? That's your position?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to play you this clip.
Why don't hate any Jew?
So the definition of anti-Semitism, according to Piers Morgan, is someone that hates Jews. From my definition of hate, this is someone that goes out of their way to cause harm physically or socially towards other people. So being anti-Semite is quite a lot of work. Now, on the other hand, are you anti-Goy? That seems more likely, right? It seems like the Semites are much more anti-Goy. All their scripture says that, right? It seems like it's more prominent the other way around than it's actually the fact, again, based on the definition that Piers Morgan is trying to apply to anti-Semitism.
Jews. Let me just amend that. I don't hate any Jews.
Okay. Let's play this clip.
The reason I've had it is because my opposition to world Jewry and Israel is rooted in absolute, uncontestable fact. We have the truth on our side. That's why we're winning, because we are telling the truth about the historical antagonism between Jews and Europeans, between Jews and Christians, the theological, historical, racial, cultural, and political antagonisms between organized Jewry and the Christians, organized Jewry and Europeans. And the reason that we are winning that argument is because it's real, it's true. I can prove it, I can show you, I can name the names, I can show you the paper trail, the money. That is why we're winning. That is why all of this is raising the consciousness.
What do you say?
Okay, so first off, in regards to what Nick said, is speaking like this is something new, like it's something that has been happening for like 60 years, 70 years or so. It's not the case. And this is where Nick falls a little bit short, because again, this is something that has been happening for thousands of years. Like he said, Christians, right? It revolving with Christ and so on. But again, this is a story before Christ himself. Even with the Egyptians, even with the Babylon, everything like that, we already had these problems. It's a story as old as time itself. And while we are progressing in our societies, Jews, they are not. They keep holding this grudge, maybe because they have big noses and we don't, and they feel very offended about that. But again, they are God's chosen, not us, right? So there you go.
You have this opposition to world Jewry. I mean, it's one thing to criticize, for example, the Israeli government over what's been doing in Gaza. I've done that myself. When you talk about world Jewry, I presume you're talking about the 15 million Jews in the world, and you are opposed to them. How does that square with your position that you don't hate any Jews?
Well, do you take issue with my use of the term world Jewry?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Oh, now he's asking for definitions. 1 hour in, he never presented any definitions, but now he wants definitions. Oh, that's very interesting.
Would you take issue with it? Do you have a problem with that?
Clarify what you mean by it.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. The gaslighting is crazy because I use that expression on my show all the time. I say organized Jewry, world Jewry. And do you know that for like 30 years, the World Jewish Congress has an annual keynote called the State of World Jewry? Barry Weiss has given it. You can look it up. It's on YouTube. She gives the state of world Jewry address.
What do you mean by it?
I mean, you have to talk about, there's a concept of Jewish peoplehood. It's the sense that they are part of a common nationality, a common tribe, a common people, and so where they reside in Israel, the United States, or Europe, or elsewhere, they see each other above, or maybe on a different level, alongside their nationality, their state, wherever they reside. If they're in Germany, France, the United States, they see themselves as part of a transnational nation, of an international nation. The Jews in America, the Jews in Israel, they identify as Israeli or American, but they also have something in common. They identify as part of a common nation, which I would say there's a world Jewish population. It's world Jewry. And world Jewry has representatives. There is such a thing as the World Jewish Congress, where they actually elect, it's democratic, all the local Jewish organizations elect representatives to represent proportionally the Jewish population in their area at the World Jewish Congress. And it's sort of like Davos. It's like the World Economic Forum, but it's exclusively for members of the Jewish nation that exists across the world. And so that's a real thing. And I didn't make that up, and that didn't come from 4chan. It's like I said in that clip. I read what they write. I read their books. I watch these speeches. I watch a speech from Barry Weiss. I pay very close attention. So that's what I mean by that. There is such a thing as it's a nation that exists across borders on a global scale. They're organized, and they have a national self-interest as that nation, as that tribe.
So if you don't...
And that's why Jews, they always try to control the countries where they are. That's why they always migrate for some strange country that there is no reason for Jews to be there. But they want to control the entire world through this organization of world Jewry. It's just the way it is. It's just a reality that we have, and it's a type of mafia. They are trying to infiltrate themselves into these positions of power, so after they can control it. And we knew this from history as well. If we talk about the Rothschilds, they were all from Germany, and then they split into different countries in Europe, they would still answer to the same one in the center, right? So this is an example of organized Jewry. It's just the reality of it. And it's a type of empire. The same way you had the colonies with the British Empire, the Portuguese Empire, Spanish Empire, the Netherlands Empire, and so on. It's a type of empire. It's a way that you are conquering countries. The problem and the difference is that they are doing through subversion. They are doing it through the shadows. And that's why Jewish people, they are so successful, because they are always cheating. They are always cheating the system. They are always having this chronic, it's not like chronic capitalism, it's like chronic society where they are always benefiting themselves throughout the different countries, because they are searching for these positions of power and then benefiting each other in this world Jewry, in the pushing just for their own. And again, if you say the same for other people, like white people, it's a huge problem, right? It's good, it's fine for them to do this. We're going to deny that such a thing exists, even that they are overrepresented in terms of political jobs in all kinds of countries, in terms of banking, in terms of lawyers, and so on. But if you say this about anyone else, it's a big problem. For them, it's not a problem, but for everyone else, it's a problem. Okay, bro.
Hate any Jews. What do you like about them?
I like a lot of things about them. I think they're funny. I think they're smart. I think that they're pretty remarkable people. And as Christians, especially as Catholics, we say they're remarkable.
I disagree. I don't like anything about them. Their big nose, ew. Their bald heads, ew. Their big ears like goblins, ew. There is nothing good about them. The fact that they steal information from white people and use them as their own. We could talk about Albert Einstein. Did you know that a lot of the theories that Albert Einstein had, they were stolen from from a German scientist that after was murdered and so on? And this is not the only example. Who are the most people that are stealing patents and things like this? It's the Jews. It's the juice, orange juice. And people get tired of orange juice really, really fast. And again, it's just pattern recognition. When you see the same type of people doing the same things over and over again, it's just the way it is. And they expose themselves and this organized Jewry. And we can even talk beyond that. We can talk about other examples of these. But let's continue with their story.
And this has been adjudicated in Catholic doctrine for thousands of years. We say that they're a witness people. And so we actually, there's provisions inside of Catholic doctrine that says we need to give them special protections because they were a witness to Christ's passion. So, this is why you can't clip the show. You have to watch the whole thing. I say this repeatedly in interviews. I do think they're remarkable. By definition, they're exceptional people. It's just that there is a sort of natural opposition between them and Christians because of the theology. We believe that Christ is the Messiah. They don't. They have been a minority in Christian lands for thousands of years, and they've been pushed around and expelled, and they've been persecuted and segregated, and that's why there's a lot of paranoia, there's a lot of distrust, there's maybe some sense of chauvinism among Jewish.
This is okay. So Nick Fuentes here is absolutely wrong. First off, they do not believe in the same God, quote unquote, the same God that Christians believe. They believe in a meritocracy system, even in terms of religion. And Islam, by the way, it's a copy of Judaism. While on the other hand, Christianity says that everyone has their own value. So it's the opposite of a meritocracy where you have value based on your actions, where on Christianity you have value, intrinsic value from your existence alone. So this is completely the opposite. On the other hand, like I said, they have different gods, and the reason why Jews hate Jesus, and because they say he's the Messiah and so on, it's because they know the real story about Jesus Christ, right? Because they know that the story was a little bit exacerbated or exaggerated, and they know different facts that they try to take advantage of it, and then it flipped on themselves. It flipped on themselves. And because of that, it created a big problem for them. A lot of these problems come from mistranslations of certain religious texts. Because these texts, they are not actually religious. And when you go back to the origin of certain words, it completely changes the narrative. Now, this is not going to be a topic that we're going to talk about here because it's extremely problematic, and I don't like to talk about religion. But yeah, just keep this in mind. What Jews believe and what Christians believe is the complete opposite. They do not believe in the same God. And what Nick is saying, it's like a very strange Christian or even Catholic way of defining this relationship. Because if you take a look at what happened in Europe throughout the ages, Catholics or Christians, they did not like very much to interact with these people because they were always doing the usury, they were always doing divide and conquer, they were always creating problems, they were always instigating division between different peoples and creating wars between them. We can talk more in depth about this topic if it becomes relevant, but let's move on.
Jewish people. So there is, like I said in that clip, there is an historical antagonism between these two peoples, between Christendom and Jewry, and that has always been the case in Europe. But I don't hate them, and I think I actually sort of understand them in a weird way. I think that because I've studied a lot of their politics, I think I really kind of know them in a way. It doesn't come from a place of hatred.
Do you have any Jewish friends?
I do. I have many, yes.
But that's weird because you said this.
Jews and Christians have never been friends, ever. Not since Jesus Christ fought with the Pharisees have we ever been friends. Not since Saul was leading the charge persecuting the Christians. Not since the Roman Empire, not since the Middle Ages. Never. We've never been friends. We've never been allies. We've always been set against each other, actually. And even here in the United States, it was communist Jews who were the architects of both communism and the civil rights laws that are dispossessing white Christians of their land and civilization.
The Jews and
100% truth. So Nick really said well here. The difference is not that it's not Christians against Jews or Jews. It's Jews against Christians. Once again, they are the ones that are hating on everyone else. Christians actually try to be approachable to them, but they refuse. They refuse the same way that we have immigrants in our countries, like, for example, from Muslim countries and African countries that do not want to assimilate. This is the same thing for Jewish people. They do not want to assimilate. They want to keep practicing their Holocaust and their other rituals where they sacrifice going children, draining their blood, burning their bodies and eating them and so on, cutting their dicks, giving them the mark of Cain and so on. They want to keep practicing those rituals. They don't want to stop. And this is the difference between Europeans and white people in general as a monolith compared to Jewry. Because white people, like I said, if you take a Portuguese to America, he becomes an American. If you take a French to America, he becomes an American. If you take a Swedish person to America, he becomes an American. If you take a Jew to America, he becomes a Jew. He's still a Jew. He's not going to change. If you take an African, the African is still going to stay African. They are not going to change their color because they don't want to dilute who they are. And again, that's self-preservation, like we mentioned before, and that's totally fine. But for white people, because we have this dynamic, because we had to struggle throughout the Ice Ages and the other different situations, we have this malleability in our own behavior. While other races, because they did not have to expose themselves to others, they have less of this. And that's okay, but the same way we have to understand your behavior and accept it, you also have to understand our behavior and accept it. And that's why sometimes separating the water from the oil, is just the best thing you can do. It's not a big deal. This separation is good for both of them.
Christians have never been friends ever, except for you and your Jewish friends.
Yeah, so easy. As peoples, as nations.
Got it.
Not saying every individual Christian. And of course, there have been Christians and there have been Christian converts to Judaism, Jewish converts, Christian. You're nodding your head, but you're asking this. I'm saying as peoples.
No,
Piers Morgan is just so disingenuous.
Compute what you're trying to say, which is Jews and Christians have never been friends ever. And I'm like, well, you have Jewish friends, I have Jewish friends, we're both Catholics, therefore we're Christians. So it doesn't really quite add up.
Well, like I said, as peoples, there has been an historical antagonism as peoples, and you could even say the same about blacks in the United States. Of course.
One thing that we have to mention is that they are saying that they have Jewish friends. Are they Jewish friends saying that they are their friends? I'm not sure. They are not there to say, but what you're doing is assumption. I would say that based on pattern recognition, it's very likely that it's not the case.
There were black and white people that were friendly with each other, but in many ways they were set against each other as groups. And I think that's easy enough to understand.
The reason that many people think you're anti-Semitic is that you have regularly downplayed the Holocaust, and in particular the number of Jewish people who were murdered by the Nazis. It's been said that you believe no more than several 100,000 have been killed. And I'm going to play you this clip.
People talk about, well, what about the gas chambers? Well, to the extent that that's real, I find that hard to believe, but to the extent that's real, there have been atrocities committed and genocides committed in all times and all places. Let's acknowledge why Hitler casts the long shadow. Because that confers a political benefit upon Jews. That's why. It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there.
Okay, something we have to mention. This batch of cookies is how many bodies can you burn in the chambers. Now, this is something very, very easy to calculate. They say that you have 6 million Jews. First off, there were no 6 million Jews in Europe, by the way. Second, the term Holocaust does not mean what they say it means. So that's another point that says this narrative is absolute bullshit. On top of that, places like Auschwitz, they were not open for 5 years. They were not open for that long. They were open for 3 years. So, and then even the amount of ovens they had, it was a small amount of ovens. When the camp was almost closing, they increased the amount of ovens. They had more plans to make even more ovens because everyone was dying of typhus. Because yes, they were in a concentration camp. Being in a concentration camp and the Holocaust, it's not the same thing. It's completely different. First off, Holocaust means Hebrew sacrifice. It's a ritual that Hebrew people do. Second, being in a concentration camp and hard work, I know that Jewish people hate physical work. We know that. They are physically weak. It's understandable. The food they eat, it's terrible if you are trying to build a strong body to do agriculture or anything like that. It's perfectly understandable that for them, being in a concentration camp where you have to do physical work, it's torture. But it's not Holocaust in any of the definitions that they mean. And once again, going back to the numbers, there were no 6 million people in Europe, especially in just Germany and Poland alone. It was much lower than that. On top of that, the Jewish people worldwide, they were around 15,300,000. Before the war in 1933, I think, and in 1948, the Jewish population was still 15,700,000 and something. So the population of Jewish people during the war actually increased. Now, there was a decrease of Jewish population in Europe during the war. That's true. Because they left Europe to go to Palestine and to go to the United States. They went to the United States. If you are wondering where all the missing Jews, even that according to the numbers, the population did not decrease, it's because they migrated. They migrated from Europe to Palestine and they migrated to the United States. That's it. It's very simple. It's not a big deal. That's the truth. Those are the facts. Let's move on.
You think that's funny?
It's funny. It's amusing what you're doing because, that one was a joke. But do you want to talk seriously about that?
It's not a joke.
Yeah,
It's not a joke. It's literally not a joke. It's just something factual. It's just the way it is. You cannot, if you do the math, if a body takes 2 hours, some bodies, depending on the type of oven, can take from 4 hours. If you have a very advanced oven, it can take 1 hour or 30 minutes. But this is on technology that we have nowadays. Back in the day, almost 100 years ago, we didn't have this type of technology. And the human body, it has a lot of water. And it has a lot of fat that is mixed with water. And because of that, it's very difficult to burn. And we also have to remember that we were in Poland. We were throughout the center of Europe, where it is very cold. Where it is very cold as well. So the how fast you could burn the bodies or anything like that is just impossible. It's just the way it is. This is just being factual. We are not making some insane conspiracy theory. This is like the most basic bullshit ever. It's not crazy to assume this as a fact because it's something that anyone can be perceptive about if you think for like 5 minutes about it. It's that simple.
I do, because I just find it extraordinary that you would think the Holocaust could ever be something that we could joke about.
Holocaust does not mean that. Stop using this word with the wrong definition. It's disgusting. So it's the same way as calling a trans man a woman. It's not a woman. Stop doing that, you Piers Morgan shitlord. You are such a shitlord. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
Why, too soon?
Too soon? I would say, you can interpret this too soon joke in different ways. It's too soon because the bodies are still in the oven, and it's too soon to remove it out to see if it's cooked enough. There are different ways to interpret this. Absolutely insane from Nick Fuentes. Yeah, let's move on.
Is it too soon to make jokes?
How many people do you think died in the Holocaust? How many Jewish people?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the number? 7, 6 million, something like that?
7 million, 6 million. So here, Nick Fuentes is telling something that is very factual, is that the number of Holocaust survivors has increased. So how is it possible that throughout history, we have more and more Holocaust survivors? We started with 2 million or something, and now you have like 4 million. How does this make sense? People that were still in their balls, in the balls of the parents, and they were already victims of the Holocaust. Like, it's so fucking retarded. And again, Holocaust does not even mean this. Were they victims of being in a concentration camp where people had typhus, where you had all kinds of races mixed, gypsies and Jews, both of them that are not the biggest fans of showers, and because of that you had lice and all kinds of insects in your body? I mean, yeah, sure, that sounds terrible. I would definitely not enjoy to be in that. But to say that there was a systematic effort to kill Jews and to get rid of them, it's not the case. You even have Benjamin Netanyahu. You can search this. You have Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, saying Hitler did not want to kill the Jews. He wanted to expel the Jews. You can search exactly this phrase on YouTube or anywhere else, and you are going to find this video. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying this. Hitler did not want to kill the Jews. He wanted to expel the Jews. And Hitler, together with the Jewish communities, he created a plan to send them to Palestine. But on their journey, well, they stopped on Auschwitz to work because it was important. There were factories in Auschwitz and Treblinka and all these places. It was a concentration camp, concentration of work. And because Jewish people, they hate physical work because they are weak, pathetic men, they changed this narrative like it was absolutely a nightmare. And we know very well that Jewish people, they are very good in fiction. That's why they control Hollywood. That's why they control the comic books. That's why everything that we know about Nazis, it came from Marvel or came from DC, or it came for some bullshit movie from Hollywood. But the reality of it is that they made wide fantasies about things like the shoes that were in piles because it was from the bodies. No, it was the people that arrived to the camp. They had to leave all their clothes there because they were all infested with lice and other problems. Then you had the burning of the making the candles and things like these. Like, this is just some nightmarish stories that they would tell to each other to scare, like those scary tales that you tell to children when you go camping or anything like that. It was just bullshit narratives that they are still using to victimize themselves. And the worst part is that they are benefiting financially from this, whether it is through aid from and reparations from Germany, whether it is from the United States. I don't even understand why the United States gives money to Israel. Germany, I kind of understand, even that I don't agree. But the other way around is just absolutely illogical and dumb. But yeah, let's continue.
6 million Jews died in the Holocaust.
Possibly more. Possibly, we're discovering all the time. So it could maybe even be more than that.
So why did
So Piers Morgan here is just so fucking retarded. He does not understand the joke that Nick is throwing out. Because once again, the more time we go forward, the more Holocaust survivors we have, even that it was something that ended 70 years ago or more, even more than 70 years ago. How does this make sense? Because most of the people that were adults during the Holocaust, or even people that were like teenagers during the Holocaust, most of them, they already died. So how is it possible that the number of Holocaust survivors keeps going up? It makes no sense, because it's not true. They did not die in extermination. They were working in concentration camps with physical work, and when they had opportunity to leave the concentration camps, which again, Auschwitz, for example, it was not open for 5 years, it was open for much less than that, they migrated from Europe or to Palestine or to the United States, where they, once again, subverged in the culture, took places of power, and did what they did best. Let's move on.
Why have you doubted the numbers in the past?
I'll tell you why. I really think that every death is a tragedy, however many Jewish people died in the Holocaust. And I'm not a World War II historian, so I'm actually open to believing the official narrative, and I've read some of the conspiracy theories, and to tell you the truth, it's a rigorous debate. But you know what's interesting about this is...
Okay, Nick here was terrible. Like, he should have been strong with his convictions. The jokes were cool, even that they were very, very soft balls. And what he's saying now, it's just, come on, bro, like... That's why people think you are a shield. That's why people think you are a fed, because when you really have the opportunity to change the narrative, you don't use that opportunity. You go with the mainstream the story. So yeah, bro, whatever.
In many countries, it's not even legal to talk about it. And that's really where my interest in the Holocaust begins and sort of ends, to tell you the truth, is that if you wanted to question the number, you would be put in jail in about, 17 or 18 European countries. And I think that's really the more interesting conversation, which is that this is almost like a religious dogma in the West. No other genocide, no other atrocity is treated like this. Could you imagine if in the United States they said the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza is 100,000, and if you don't say that, you're going to jail, you're banned on X, you can't have a job?
Now, this is very important, because as Nick Fuentes is saying this, Benjamin Netanyahu, our boy that said that Hitler did not want to kill the Jews, he wanted to expel the Jews. Benjamin Netanyahu, the boy that supposedly was the best friend of Charlie Kirk, he just said recently that they did not kill any Palestinian children or babies or anything like that, when we have thousands and thousands of videos throughout the last 10 years or 15 years or so that show the opposite, that they were purposely killing women, children, and even babies, like small children, without any reason. And on top of that, also animals. The other day I saw a video where they were shooting a horse for absolutely no reason. A horse that had like a chariot or anything like that. And and they just shot the horse. Why would you do that? So again, Jews, for some reason, they think that they can do this type of things. It is on their Torah, or is it on their Talmud, or anything like that. But the fact that they mistreat not only other humans, they call them goy, but the same goes towards animals, is just Machiavellic. It's just evil. And that's why people get suspicious about them. I think that's just the way it is. But yeah, Nick really lost the opportunity here to seal the deal. Let's say that.
It's the part that's totally insane. And a lot of people, they can't even make up their minds. I think it's actually done a disservice. If your goal, and I'm not saying you as Piers Morgan, but if you're an advocate for awareness about this, if your goal is to convince everybody that this is the way the Holocaust happened, I think the last thing you want to do is say that everyone that disagrees is in jail and is banned and you're not allowed to say it. So there's really been no open debate about the subject since the scholarship started to be produced about 60 years ago.
There is no debate to be had about the number of people who were murdered.
Why not? Why we cannot have debate about the topic? Everything should be debatable. Literally everything. Is pedophilia something good? Let's debate about that. Is pornography good? Let's debate about that. Without debate, we cannot build society. It's just the way it is. We cannot make a distinction between what's good for the majority of people, what's good for society, what's good for children, what's good for animals. Without debate, we cannot have a cohesion society. We cannot have a society without monsters. Because everyone that is a monster or not will always push for their own self-interests. So the fact that Piers Morgan is saying that you cannot have a discussion about this, that just makes him some type of a theological fascist or something like that, where only his word is the one that is acceptable. This is like some level of theological fascism or cultural fascism that is just unacceptable. Piers Morgan is just saying that he's a dictator. He's a tyrant when it comes to this. And again, it should not be the case, especially if you are living in democracy, right? If you are living in democracy, we should always have debates about things.
Nazis, even the Nazis in the trials after the war, confirmed the numbers. The amount of documentation that was recovered, notwithstanding.
Yeah, there was no documentation. What they said, they were forced to say those things. Otherwise, their families would be murdered. So they sacrificed themselves to save their families. They sacrificed themselves to push this narrative and confirm this fantasy of a narrative that it's just not real. It's just not real. So when you have this mafia, when you have this world Jewry organization that is threatening you, your life and your family's life, of course that if you want to save them, you are not going to sacrifice them for the cause, because at the end of the day, life is the priority, right? So if you have to sacrifice yourself to save your life, unfortunately, it's just the way it is. And those brave men, they allowed them to have their lives ended to make sure that their families would survive, which we don't even know for sure if their lives survived or not. But anyway, let's talk about the Holocaust, quote-unquote Holocaust. Again, this is not the definition of the word. Let's talk about what's going on in Gaza. Why not? Why we can talk about that as well. Let's talk about what's going on in Syria. Let's talk about what happened in Iran. Let's talk about what happened in Afghanistan, in all these places that were bombarded all over the place for absolutely no reason. Why not talk about that instead? Doesn't that sound more interesting? Why not?
The attempts by the Nazis to destroy it. The amount of documentation that was saved and preserved and used for trials of historical...
There is no save and preserve. What do you mean? The Red Cross documents that analyzed all the concentration camps, including Auschwitz, Treblinka, and so on, that said that the people that were counted for that died there was around 270,000? Is that what you mean? Those are the documents that you're talking about? The documents from the Red Cross that confirm all of these? That's very interesting. Now, we have to separate the people that died on the concentration camps from terrible conditions, because there was a war going on. Maybe people forgot, but there was a war going on. We can talk about those numbers, but let's compare those numbers to the people that are dying right now in Ukraine. Over 1 million men, Ukrainian men, have died throughout the war. The people that died on the concentration camps compared to the people that died throughout the war on the battlefield need to be separated. We cannot compare the same thing. And many times the numbers of people that die in wars is highly exaggerated. Highly exaggerated. So let's keep that in mind.
Record is unprecedented in the history of mass slaughter of human beings. So we have a very clear idea of how many people were gassed to death in the gas chambers. We have a very clear idea of how many were starved to death, were kept in ghettos, died of disease, of forced labor, of death marches. We know how many Jews.
Okay, so now he's admitting that more people died apart from the supposed gases. By the way, we can talk about the gases. We can talk about Cyclone B, how it is a very hard compound that is difficult to make it as a gas because it needs to be warmed to a very high temperature. We can talk about that as well, and that it leaves blue stains everywhere. We can talk about that as well. But Piers Morgan is admitting himself that he's putting all the numbers together in a big cake that is going to bake, and this is just. It's dumb, like it's unreasonable. This is not how things are calculated. And again, I'm not surprised because he doesn't know what per capita means, right? So I guess this is not surprising because he's that dumb. It's just the way it is.
Were slaughtered. It's at least 6 million. What's interesting to me,
at least 6 million, even that there were no 6 million people in Europe, Jewish people in Europe at that time. Like we said before. And maybe you should know, Jewish people, they are nomads. There were a lot of Jewish people in Spain, in France, in Italy. There were a lot of Jewish people, of course, in Portugal. There were a lot of Jewish people in Brazil. Jewish people were the ones pushing Portuguese to take the slaves from Africa to Brazil. There were tons of people there in Argentina, in Colombia, Venezuela, and so on. These 15 million people, these 15 million Jewish people, once again, that did not decrease in terms of democracy throughout the world during the years of war, like we talked about before. They did not decrease, and they did not exist in Europe, especially Central Europe. It's just the case. Tons and tons of Jewish people, they live in Russia, not in Europe. So what are you talking about, bro? Like, your numbers make absolutely no sense.
Is that you appear to now concede that, which may be news to a lot of your regular viewers who have constantly heard you quibble with the number of Jews who died in the Holocaust. And for the record, just to confirm what I think you told me, you do now accept that at least 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
At least.
Well, no, I said it could even be higher than that.
Well, it could be higher.
I think it's at least.
It could be, and Piers Morgan is so fucking dumb. He does not even understand that he's falling into a trap of Nick Fuentes. Again, Nick Fuentes is saying that maybe it's more than 6 million. Again, of a 15 million population worldwide in 1933 and after in 1948 or even 1952, you can check the different numbers. It was 15 million throughout that decade or those 2 decades. So Nick Fuentes is saying that, once again, it's the fallacy that Jewish people use, that now more and more we have more victims of the concentration camps, right? They're all victims of the Holocaust. Even that, it makes no sense because it was 70 years ago, and many of the people that say that they are survivors, they were not even alive. They were not even alive at that time. It makes absolutely no sense. But still, they are benefiting financially from these, which is a huge problem. So, I don't know, maybe they have intergenerational trauma that went through the DNA or something bullshit like that. It's absolutely insane.
At least. Oh, it's at least 6 million. But it could be 100 times more than that.
It could be 100 billion.
The rest of your question. Sure. What you're saying, I understand where you're coming from when you say it has been documented and there are confessions and so on. Let that speak for itself. But you don't see, your show is called Piers Morgan.
We can also mention that a lot of these confessions, a lot of Jewish people that made these confessions, they said that those confessions were fake. You can search on YouTube or on Rumble or maybe on BitChute that tons and tons of these people, they admitted that their confessions were fake. And some of them, they were even actors that they were lying to push this narrative, which once again, they are benefiting financially of throughout the decades that passed since then.
And uncensored. Yeah. But the United Kingdom is censored and Europe is censored. And if you talk about these things, you will be put in jail in many countries. And I think that's where a lot of people start to say, well, If the truth is so clear, and if there's such overwhelming evidence, why do you need to throw people in jail for disagreeing? And you yourself said, well, there is no debate. I think
Because
everything
it's
is debatable. I think
fascism.
everything at least should be debated. And if the evidence is very one-sided, let the evidence speak. Don't throw people in jail. So do you think that Holocaust denial laws should be overturned?
I don't particularly agree with Holocaust denial laws. I don't think people should be in prison.
Okay.
Well, because I have a blanket.
So he just said 5 minutes ago that you cannot question the Holocaust at all, and now he's saying that he's against the laws that stop you from talking about the Holocaust. Like, bro, like Piers Morgan is flip-flopping like, I don't even know, like he's just flip-flopping all over the place. Like, bro, be consistent with your opinions, right?
View now, which has evolved slightly actually over the years, that I have a blanket view that speech should not be criminalized. Right? People should be allowed to say what they want to say, and they should be then made accountable for what they say. If you have an employer, they can make a view about whether you are the right kind of person they want for their employment, as they would make a decision.
Being accountable, like, again, being accountable for thinking that the people that died in World War II is less than the number that the publishers that are controlled by Jews. Being accountable, and what that accountability is going to be? What? How are Jewish people going to suffer nowadays from that? Are they going to stop receiving the paychecks that they have been receiving for the last decades? Yeah, maybe they are the ones that should be accountable with that and stop receiving them. You denying that situation, it brings you no benefit, or it inflicts any kind of harm towards them. Like, it's so absolutely ridiculous. Being accountable for what? I'm spitting myself because we have been talking for like 3 hours. I apologize. So yeah, sorry for that.
Decision about anything else you do in life. So I actually believe that speech should never be criminalized. It's my personal view. I understand why in places like Germany, they have strong laws about it because they want to move on from what they believe was the most shameful moment in their history. I understand that. Do I want that?
Which is not true. They are being shamed for something that did not happen. There is no evidence that it happened. There is a bunch of Hollywood movies, but it's not reality. It's not reality. You have a bunch of fan fiction from Jewish publishers, which, once again, it's not reality. It's just a narrative that they created to benefit out of this. They are the kings of reparations. They created this narrative of black people reparations because they have been benefiting of reparations for dozens of years. Dozens and dozens and dozens of years. It's just the way it is. This is just a reality. This is just a fact.
In my country? No. Am I appalled by what has been going on with free speech in the United Kingdom in the last 2 or 3 years? Absolutely. It is ridiculous that people have been frog-marched to prison cells for stuff they put on social media. Right? So yeah, I do. I think what is more interesting to me about our exchange is I was not expecting you to go the opposite way. I was not expecting you to be so emphatic that at least 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. There will be people watching this who I think will be very surprised by that, because you have built a reputation for being, if not a Holocaust denier, then somebody constantly questioning in a downward way the number of Jews who were murdered. That doesn't appear to be.
Again, Holocaust does not mean that. Holocaust is a Hebrew ritual. Please, Mr. Piers Morgan, use the correct definition of the word. Don't try to call a woman a trans woman, even that this was something you did in the past. So let's keep things clear.
To be what your position is now.
No, and here's what I would like to see for my entire career. When I started my show, it started with a good faith inquiry, where I was questioning a lot of these narratives, and I said, what is the answer on the other side? But what I found is that the answer was criminalized. So when you would talk about anything regarding Jews, Israel, the Holocaust, you could be in favor of the official narrative on those things. If you went against, you were banned, censored, and in some countries jailed. And so I actually haven't made up my mind on that, because that's not really a matter of interest to me. And there's a lot of analysis and scholarship on both sides of the issue. And I've read both sides of the issue. And honestly, unfortunately, it's hard to judge because there's never been a debate on it. And there's never been a debate.
Now, one problem with Nick Fuentes here, saying that he analyzed both sides of the narrative. The problem is that one people are trying to tell you a story, one people are trying to tell you a fan fiction, the other people are trying to tell you the truth. And when you are comparing truth to fiction, it's not going to match, right? That's why this topic is banned. That's why this topic is not possible to discuss, because once again, you are trying to compare a fan fiction with reality, and it's just something that it's impossible to do. And because they are benefiting, once again, financially out of this situation, out of their fan fiction, they are not going to allow you to speak about it. So, and again, because they are the ones controlling the governments, because they are the ones making the rules, of course, you are going to have less of a possibility to discuss about this topic, which, once again, they are benefiting of.
Because of the stigma, because of the censorship. And I think that leads a lot of people to say, well, what do they have to hide? Because you can say on your show, well, I'm personally against Holocaust denial laws, yet they still persist, and the social consequences still persist. And I think that that is the anomaly. And people have to wonder, okay, Why is it that way? And what I said in that clip is the reason the Holocaust casts a long shadow is because it confers a political benefit upon organized Jewry. That is what they always fall back on. They cannot be criticized, they cannot be named, they cannot be talked about, lest there be another Holocaust. And no other tragedy is treated that way, and no other ethnic group has a get-out-of-jail-free card. Just play that. Anti-Semitism and Holocaust, you can do whatever you want and defend all your actions. That's the part that people are getting upset with. That's the problem.
I don't know any right-minded person who believes that Jewish people weaponized the Holocaust for their own...
Piers Morgan, you are so naive. You are such a boomer. Such a baby. Wow. I don't know anyone benefiting out of this Holocaust narrative. Really? Really? For example, the people in Palestine? I mean, Israel, right? Israel? That's the name? Israel? Or Palestine? Or Palestine? I'm not sure how to say it exactly. I think it's Palestine, not Palestine, but okay. You really don't know anyone benefiting out of this? Really? Wow, that's insane.
Personal get out of jail free or whatever you called it.
You don't know anyone that does that? That believes that?
Sure there are. It's such a ridiculous generalization. You know, the truth is that most
ridiculous generalization. Wow.
I want to play you two clips. One is where you talk about Adolf Hitler.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, you know, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool.
Do you regret saying that?
Saying a fact? No, that's absolutely true.
You think Hitler was very fucking cool?
Yes, I do.
And
I'm tired of pretending he's not.
Well,
to be honest.
This is the problem, you see. It's a bit like when you just say, I'm a racist. You're a racist who thinks Hitler's cool, but you're not anti-Semitic. If you're a Jewish person watching this, what are they thinking? I'll tell you what they're thinking, because I've got a friend of mine called Danny Finkelstein, who, when he heard I was interviewing you, he's a Times journalist in the UK, very eminent journalist here, and author, who wrote a book about his own family's experiences at the hands of Hitler and Stalin, because he also told Tucker Carlson.
Okay, we have to make a pause here, because this is like very, very deep. So first off, Hitler, was he cool? Was he not cool? I mean, that's up to debate. It's up to you to decide. You have to know that Hitler, by the way, he was borderline communist, right? He had some very, very strange ideas when it comes to personal property and stuff like that. He was a socialist. He was borderline communist. He just didn't like the cultural Marxism and stuff like that, and the class struggle over the racial struggle. So yeah. Second, Hitler was a vegan. He was farting all the time. If anyone complains about being gassed, it was because of Hitler's diet. It was terrible, and that's why he got sick, because he was a dirty vegan. We all know that humans are carnivores. We are not vegans, and you should avoid as much as possible eating vegetables. So if there was any gassing going on in Germany or Poland or anything like that, that was because of Hitler, and he was very famous for farting everywhere. So the people that suffered the most from gassing were actually the Germans and everyone else that collaborated with Hitler. So let's keep those facts straight, please.
That you admire.
Okay, now we are going to listen to the Finkelstein or whatever is his name. Like, bro, pick a struggle, bro. Like, you're saying your family was suffering at the hands of Hitler and then at Stalin at the same time? Like, you know that they were in very far apart places, right? So where exactly in the world was this? Was it in Poland? Poland with Hitler being there, and then with the Soviets being there? Is that the case? Please let us know. Explain that properly. Oh, yeah, you didn't. So, yeah. But we're going to keep this idea in mind with what this guy is going to say, because it's very interesting for sure.
Stalin. But let's just take what Danny said here.
Hi, Piers. It's Danny Finkelstein here. As you're interviewing Nick Fuentes, you might try suggesting to him that he reads my book.
Bro, just look at this guy. This is the problem. You look like a goblin. I don't even know what to say. The nose takes most of the camera. Then you have this strange shape. The ears, once again, coming out. Very, very strange. I'm not sure what's going on here. All your face is like melting away. And you think that for some reason that anyone cares about your opinion. Like, we don't give a shit about your opinion. People are suffering throughout the world. Do you care about the black people that are Christians that are suffering in Ethiopia or whatever is the country? I don't even care about that. But you care about that? You don't, because you have this self-interest. You want to promote your book, you want to promote this shit. That's the reality of it. So Piers Morgan using this actor to promote a narrative, like, bro. And again, we are talking about someone that writes books for a living. So again, fan fictions, it's their job. They love this. Marvel, DC, the mutants, all these things. They are all representation of Jewish struggle, if you think about it. The problem with those struggles is that they can apply to different people as well. Like, for example, black people, for example, white people now. So, yeah, the representation they wanted now, it also applies to other people because they put those people on the same situation they supposedly say that they were victims of. Let's continue.
Book Hitler, Stalin, Mum and Dad. It's called Two Roads Home in the United States. Since he says he's on Team Hitler, you might like to ask him about the fact that Hitler arrested my mum, tried to starve my mum to death, did starve my grandmother to death, sent my great aunt to the gas chamber.
So Hitler, he was removing the food of your mother's mouth and of your grandmother's mouth. It was not the case. There was a war going on. And when there is a war, you have different agents. You have the British bombing the factories and the bridges and so on. That stops the food to go to the camps or where they were working. The concentration camps where they were working. So if they starved, it was not by direct action. It was from the consequences of the war. So you are blaming it on Hitler because it fits your narrative, because it benefits you today, but it's not factually correct. It's just not factually correct. So let's be clear about that, by the way.
My great uncle, my cousin, my grandmother on my father's side ended up being 1 out of 7 children, the only one that survived the war. So you might ask him whether he wouldn't rather be on Team Mum rather than Team Hitler. And as for celebrating Stalin's birthday, well, Stalin took my father, sent him to a state collective farm, sent my grandmother and to a state collective farm, sent my grandfather to the Gulag. You might try asking why he doesn't celebrate Dad's birthday rather than Stalin's. It may well be a big joke to him, but he complains that he was 18 when someone tried to cancel him. Well, Stalin and Hitler arrested my mum and my dad when they were 10 years old.
So we both agree that Stalin was a bad guy. Sending someone to the Gulag. Why was he sent to the Gulag? Because he was against the government? Well, that's just the way it is. If you say something nowadays that is against Jewish people, something that offends the ADL or the SPLC or the same thing like that, they are also going to the jail. They are also going to the jail. So is there any difference between world organized Jewry and Stalin or quote-unquote Hitler? There is no. You are saying exactly the same things. The things that you criticize the others of and the things that you have benefited out of from being supposedly a victim, you are doing the same things yourself. The supposed Holocaust, but let's now change the term. We have to talk about genocide. We have, in today's society, in 2025, Jewish people committing a genocide towards people in Palestine, their original country. And also in Syria, and also in all these other countries that are connected with it, directly or indirectly, for example, in Iran as well. So what about that, bro? What about that? Did you write that in your book? Is that in your book too? Is that also in your mother's birthday celebration story? I'm not sure. Maybe.
Perhaps he might like to reconsider his joke.
See, that's the reality of your...
The reality, bro. Reality. This is absolute fan fiction. This is absolute fan fiction that he's trying to use to sell a book. It's the same story with Anne Frank diary. We all know the Anne Frank diary was faked. Where is Anne Frank today? So her father or uncle or whatever is still alive, but she was not. Like, it's so ridiculous. But anyway, let's continue. Again, just remember that the people that create Hollywood, the people that created Marvel, the people that created DC, the people that love to create these fan fiction worlds, these amazing narratives out of this world, imagination of space, and all these different things, they were created by who?
Are joking when you say that Hitler was very fucking cool. Are you joking, or do you actually think he was very fucking cool? The most genocidal monster of the last 150 years?
Yeah, the thing is, my generation, we're just done with the pearl clutching. You know,
you might be, but then your generation hasn't gone through what Danny Finkelstein's family went through. So yeah. maybe the pearl clutching has a way to go. The families whose family members
were murdered. Yeah,
they are actually going through the same thing. If you are going to jail for speaking certain things, how different is it? How different is it? You are still going to the jail. Are you going to eat lobster every day in jail like Jordan Peterson or anything like that? Probably not, no. So to say that young people nowadays have not experienced this, it's actually not the case. We have seen people like the Gypsy Crusader. We have seen that the guy shaman from January 6th. Those people went to jail when it was not even confirmed that they committed a crime. So what about that, bro? What about that? They have experienced it exactly the same as the mother and the uncle or whatever from that other guy too, or your grandfather or whatever. Like, no one cares. No one cares. We are literally experiencing the same thing right now. We just don't have the chains. The illusion that we have is that we are free, but we are still on chains. We just don't see the chains, and that's a big problem.
We got all that. Me mom, like we're, I don't even know who this person is. Why is this person talking to me? This old British guy is saying me mom got killed by Hitler.
He doesn't find it funny when you say Hitler's very fucking cool.
I don't care. I don't care.
You don't care. That's fine. You don't have to care. But he does care.
Does that guy care about America? Does that guy care about me and my country and my family? No.
He cares what you.
Does that guy care about white people? Does that guy care about black people? Does that guy care about Asian people? No. He cares about himself and its own. Again, self-preference. It's okay, but you cannot say that we are wrong for wanting the same thing, even that is a universal right. It's not a human right, it's a universal right if you are a life form, right? Your life forms, they always have self-preference. That's the way it is. That's how you keep the different species throughout the world that we have nowadays. Lions, tigers, and all these things. It's from self-preference. That's how you turn a behavior into a pattern that you can see with your own eyes, like, for example, the strips on a tiger. That's just the way it is.
Conservative in America has to say about Adolf Hitler. And what do you mean by Hitler is very fucking cool? Because I think he's very fucking a monster.
I agree. He's an absolute monster. Again, he's a vegan, bro. He does not eat meat. Can you believe that? For sure, his brain was absolutely toasted. And again, all those vegetables making him fart like hell. I agree with Piers Morgan here. Here I have to 100% agree with Piers Morgan. Hitler was a monster. I would not be able to be next to him and be able to sustain all these farts next to me. I think I would just pass out with all this gassing and all this methane coming out of his ass. So on this one, I have to agree with Piers Morgan.
And that's a clip. I think he's very fucking a monster. Do you hear yourself?
Yeah,
can we all grow up? Can we all grow up? That's just childish.
He murdered 12 million people. What is very fucking cool about that? Tell me.
The edits.
And now Nick is correct. It's so childish. Like, bro, it's the Red Hitler is the Red Skull, or it's the Hulk, or whatever. He's just a monster. Oh my God, so scary. Like, come on, bro. Like, grow up.
It's just cool. The uniforms, the parades, it's cool as a guy. You look at World War II, and it's fascinating, and it's interesting, and it's compelling, and it's cool. And we're just tired of saying these kinds of things. We want to talk like real people and give our honest opinions, and then we literally get an old Jewish guy from England who's going to say, "Oh, that's not very funny, mate. Me mom," and it's like, shut up. Like, no one is in favor of genocide. So let's just get that out of the way. We're not in favor of a Holocaust or genocide.
Do you think if half your family had been wiped out by very fucking cool Hitler, you'd still think he was very fucking cool? Or would you think that actually he was a despicable monster who murdered 12 million people, who targeted people because they were disabled or Jewish or Romani Gypsy or whatever it may be?
What about we're gonna do a what about argument? What about the Palestinian people? What about the people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? What about the people on the U.S. Liberty? What about the people on the Titanic? What about the people on the Twin Towers? What about those people? Piers Morgan, are we going to have the same type of empathy towards them? What about the people in Iraq? What about the people in Iran? What about the people that had nothing to do with 9/11 and still their country was completely destroyed by that? What about people in Libya? What about people in Egypt? What about, bro? Like, these people, are we going to have the same level of sympathy towards them? Or it's just Jews? It's just the Jews. Orange juice, everyday orange juice. Really?
Maybe. And that he systematically destroyed people, incinerated them in gas chambers. Do you think you would find it very fun?
Like people in Palestine nowadays, right? It's pretty bad when the people that you are trying to protect are committing exactly what you say they were victims of. They should know better. They should know better, right? This is a Christian principle. You never do to others what you don't want done to yourself. This is a Christian principle or a Catholic principle. Do Jewish people do the same thing? Nah. They do the opposite. They do exactly to others the worst of the worst. What they complain about is exactly what they do to others. It's just the reality of the situation.
Fucking cool if your family had been through that? Or do you think you would find it very fucking disgusting? And perhaps moderate the number of times you laugh about it, or want to joke about it, or want to abuse someone like Danny Finkelstein, who's written incredibly powerful books about what happened to his extended family at the hands of the Nazis and your other hero, Stalin. See,
Were those books for free? Did he give those books away for free, or was he selling those books? I think he was selling the books, right? I think it's, again, fan fiction. It's a lot of fan fiction.
Point to you, Nick Fuentes, is that in parts of this interview, you try to come across as moderate, but every now and again the mask slips, and it slipped again here with what you say about Hitler. There's nothing very fucking cool about Hitler. We know that from history now. We know what he did. You've already conceded that he murdered at least 6 million Jews. So when you say he's very fucking cool, Jewish people want to...
Okay, let's continue.
This guy's disgusting. Why would you say this about someone who perpetrated such an evil? And what's the real answer? Why do you? Is it just for clicks? Is it for money? Is it just for fun? For shits and giggles? What is it? What motivates you to say something like Hitler was very fucking cool?
Why is he doing this? To free his people. To free his people from the shackles of an event that might never happen. Free his people from the shackles of an event that we are paying for and we don't even know why. We cannot even ask why. To free the shackles of his people. Is that alone not enough? Are we not worthy of freedom? I think we are. But maybe you disagree, Piers Morgan. Maybe you disagree. Because again, we have these special people that deserve everything, right? They are the God's chosen, whatever God means. But everyone else is just cattle for them. Everyone else is just cattle. And because they are cattle, they are under shackles, or they are under the frames, or the I don't know how to say
it. It's for all of this. And the lack of self-awareness is amazing. You're a boomer. You're a 60-year-old boomer. And we spent maybe 3 minutes on you saying, he's a really fucking monster. He incinerated people. And I'm sitting here saying, it's not that serious. It's not that deep. And
not that serious.
I'm getting at,
not that serious.
Do you want to say more about he's a monster?
You're not kid yourself anymore. You're not a teenager.
I know.
Right? You're nearly 30, to be clear.
Yeah,
okay? You're a fully formed adult who has a brain. Right? And at some stage, that brain has taken you off these rabbit
holes. Is this an interview or is this a lecture? Can I respond to what you're saying?
I want you to explain why you think it's fine to say how fucking cool Hitler is and to dismiss the very powerful 90 seconds from a British journalist who lost a lot of family members to the Nazis in such a callous, dismissive manner.
I don't think it's powerful. I think we've been hearing that our entire lives. Okay, the Schindler's List. Let's just be honest. The propaganda is over the top. We have been in America.
What about the Schindler's List? Tell me about the Schindler's List. Tell me about the Schindler's List.
I'll tell you about it. We have been browbeaten as a people, as Americans, as Westerners, for our entire lives. And you know what this has done? It has taken away any sense of pride, any sense of love for our own civilization. We have been made the villain in our own story. We have been made because, well, let's just be clear. It doesn't begin and end with Hitler is a monster. This has been the political narrative, which is why we've thrown open the borders. This is a political narrative, which is why we can't be a conservative society as a whole anymore, why we can't be proud of Europeans, why we can't be proud of being Christian. Because they've told us, if you're too white and too proud and too Christian, it's going to lead to a Holocaust. And so my generation, our entire lives.
Honestly,
it's true. That's why people like me. That's why I'm popular, because it's bullshit.
Honestly,
yeah, it's a crock. You know what?
This is exactly what we have been told. If we are too proud on ourselves, if we have too much self-preference, it's going to lead towards another thing that does not mean what they say it means. But once again, on the other hand, you have Jewish people that love themselves a little bit, way too much, and because of that, they are practicing the genocide of Palestinian people. They are stealing their land, and Jewish people themselves say, oh, if we would not steal it, someone else steal it. If it was not this Jew, it would be another Jew. So what they're saying about us, it's once again what they do. This fan fiction is more like of an index of the things that they should do throughout their journey to this world Jewry domination, because that's their main goal. We all know about the Great Israel Project and the expansion of that. And we also have to talk about the importance of Israel and, for example, Portugal. Why these countries are so important for Jews? Because they allow them to have access to multiple continents. Israel is like the best place geographically speaking, because if you have nuclear weapons in Israel, you can literally bomb every single point in the world that has land from that position. And the same goes for my country, Portugal, because from there you can pretty much bomb most of America and give you insane access to the amazing world, to the new world that is the United States. So again, we can understand that Jewish people, they're not stupid. They're not stupid. But of course they have their own motivations. And that's why they create these narratives. That's why they are always trying to filtrate. And that's why they're always trying to benefit out of the misery of others.
When you just
me mom and me dad.
What
That's
you
a crock of
just, no,
shit.
listen. What you just said is a crock of shit, and you
It's
know
true.
it.
It's
And
called the open society.
And in your gut, you know it is. You weaponize
No,
this stuff.
you know.
You weaponize this stuff for money, but you know when you say something like what you
I'm
just
banned
said.
from banking. I'm banned from banking and credit cards. You know what you're talking to? I do it for money.
By the
How
way-
much money you
by
make?
the
Your
way,
company's
that
worth $100 million.
shouldn't-
Your company's worth $100 million. I was banned from Bank of America.
And you
I'm
shouldn't have
banned for
been.
processing credit
And you
cards.
shouldn't have been.
But I am. So don't tell me I'm doing it for money.
Well, ask me my opinion about that. I'll tell you shouldn't have been. Right? I don't agree with that. What happened to
Then
you?
don't say I'm doing it for money, because you know that full well, and you say it's a
How much
grift.
money? How
If
much
I
money
wanted
are
to be a grifter, I'd be like you. And I would go and say,
How much money are you making?
I'm making a lot of money now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm the #1 live streamer in America, because people agree with me more than they agree with you. We're tired of hearing about slavery and the Holocaust and Jim Crow. We're done hearing about that. You guys
I'm not
overplayed
done
our
hearing
hand.
about that.
Okay, well, your generation's on the way out, and Generation Z is coming up, and we're finished with that. We're ready to take our country
I've
back.
got three
We're not
sons.
listening
I've
to
got
crime
three
minorities
sons.
anymore.
I've got three sons, and they don't share your views about
Yeah, well.
slavery and about the Holocaust. They can have decency and compassion and humanity about some of the worst things that have happened in the last 150 years or more. They can,
The worst things that you saw in movies, the worst things that we saw in movies. But like Nick is saying, they are on the way out. They are a dying generation, and these mindsets, these chains that they put on ourselves, the chains start breaking apart, because the same way we have problems with these communities of immigrants and so on, the same goes in regards to the culture. With each generation, the struggles of ones will start to dissipate away with time. With every person that dies, they will dissipate away. And now, because we are the third generation that went from the Holocaust, with Nick Fuentes being like fourth generation, this feeling that people had in the past, it's completely disappearing. And more people will be following this narrative, because it's just a reality, and it's the struggle that we are having for thousands of years. So this bubble of opportunity they had was not enough for them to conceal their power. They are very powerful for sure, and we have to fight it no matter what. But this bubble will start dissipating, and because some Jewish people are actually assimilating in European society, these motivations and this plan, what's the name, the plans of Zion, or whatever it is, the Elder Scrolls of Zion, all this narrative, all these plans, all these goals will start to dissipate away. Even that a lot of people in Israel, they are absolutely insane. The fact that they can justify the murder of children is just beyond comprehension.
They can do that, and they can also have concerned views about issues like immigration and other issues. The two things are not mutually incompatible. You can have different views about different things. It's your lack of humanity and compassion for people about things like the Holocaust, about slavery. It's that people find so contemptible. And I don't understand why you need to do that. Again, I just ask you, is your motivation financial? Is your motivation for fun? What is the motivation for saying these outlandish things, which you don't need to say, and which I suspect, I don't know, I suspect a lot of it is performative. So what is the motivation?
I'm an iconoclast. The Holocaust is not my religion, and it is treated like a religion. It is treated like a religion with dogma, with blasphemy laws, and that secular religion says, and you say that's a crock of shit. It's intentional. It's called the Open Society by Karl Popper. It's by these architects of the liberal order after World War II. They got together and they said, how can we make sure that Hitler never happens? How can we make sure that totalitarianism never happens again? And they came up with the consensus, which is that we need to take down nations, religions, fathers, the authoritarian personality. We need to be empathetic and altruistic. We need to be diverse and pluralistic. And that experiment isn't working. And I'll tell you the truth right now, and you can laugh at this, you can scoff at this, our people are being genocided in our country. 50% of the live births in the United Kingdom and in the United States are non-white. In 100 years, my ancestors, your kids who are so empathetic and compassionate, they're going to be a minority. They're going to be a minority in maybe a Muslim country, an Indian country, an Hispanic country, and these Jewish people that are 100 years old talking about my grandparents and the Holocaust, they don't care about that. Actually, they like to see it. At the SPLC, they're literally counting down the days until whites are a minority in America. So forgive me if I don't believe them when they talk about compassion. There's a genocide going on right now. It's not against the Jews.
How many Christians are there?
Gaza, it's
How
against
many
whites.
Christians are there in the world?
We have to talk about what Nick Fuentes is saying about the genocide of white people. This is a reality. When you have black people killing over 5,000 whites per year in the United States alone, this is a genocide. When you have white people being murdered in South Africa, it's a genocide. When we have uncontrollable waves of migrants, billions, there is billions of them invading your countries, that's genocide, because you are creating less and less of opportunities for white people to survive, for white people to control the resources, for white people to reproduce, because you need resources to reproduce. Basic animal behavior, right? Basic animal behavior. Whether you are a human or not, you need resources for you to survive, and you need to be in a healthy position in order for you to procreate and not go extinct. And all these pushes towards white countries being invaded by other people, it's going to create a genocide. And this is on the definitions of genocide. This is the indirect genocide. There are like 9 rules of what is considered a genocide, and 3 or 4 of them, it's going on exactly right now in the white countries, in the United States, in Europe, and so on. It's exactly what is going on right now. Genocide is not, again, a monolith term that means only one thing. There are several definitions of what can cause a genocide. There are different recipes for the same result, and 4 or 5 of them based on the international acceptance for what a genocide is. Many of these are being practiced right now in white countries. So yeah, he's 100% correct in this one.
Let me
1 point some billion,
Yeah,
2 billion.
How many Jews are there?
15 million.
Okay, so with a straight face, you're going to tell me the world is being overrun by the Jewry, by 15 million people, when there are over 1 billion Christians. There is a genocide of Christians like poor old Nick Fuentes going on at the hands of these 15 million Jews. Really?
So this is so fucking retarded. Like, so for example, let's use example from the animal world. You have one of those Asian wasps. One Asian wasp can kill hundreds of other bees, especially if it's on a one-on-one situation. It's very, very easy for them to annihilate one-on-one the bees. In regards to the Jewry, because most of white people behave based on their family circle, based on their friends, and do not have this worldwide Jewry like Jews have, white people, even if they are on a bigger number, they are always on a weaker term compared to this organization. Because again, the white people organization, the white people circle is just their proximity, their family, their neighbors, and so on. While for Jews, it's the entire world connected. So even that they are 15 million, the same number that they had back in the day, back in the 30s and the 40s, this small, quote-unquote, small amount of people is enough to control the entire world because they are interconnected with each other, while the populations locally, the local populations, they do not have this type of organization. So it's like the mafia. You heard about the Italian mafia, you heard about the Russian mafia. Why the Italian mafia and the Russian mafia, they always have big noses and small heads? Very strange, right? We have these different definitions for them, but all these mafias, at the end of the day, they keep being interconnected and so on. And it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. They are way more organized because of this. And even that we are at a bigger number, whether it is Christians or Muslims or whatever, because we are not organized in a world group, of course, we are going to not be at the same level of power against these guys, and that's why they control. But Piers Morgan, once again, because he's dumb, because he's a boomer, because he never had to use his brain cells, he cannot understand this or notice this or realize this. He cannot even realize a scenario like this.
See, this attitude is why you're losing. When you say
Who am I
poor
losing
old
to?
white people,
Who
these
am I
poor
losing
old
to?
white people.
Who am I losing to?
You're seeing it, mass migration. Oh, you're losing to me. We are losing as a civilization of mass migration. And here's the difference. In Israel, they have my politics. In Israel, they want to maintain a Jewish majority. If they had it their way, it would only be Jewish people. They're fighting like hell so the Jewish people can have as much territory, a Jewish state, they can be proudly Jewish in their own land. Whereas in America, we are being besieged by 10 million illegal immigrants in 4 years. And then whites and Christians are going to be the minority. And that's true.
What Nick Fuentes is talking about here is the Greater Israel Project. Israel, they don't want to be that small country on that location where it is Palestine. They want to expand themselves to Syria and all the surrounding countries as well. It's absolutely true. You can check it out, the Greater Israel Project. They have on the logo of their jackets, Benjamin Netanyahu is always talking about it, like, bro, it's just the reality of it.
in Canada, Australia, all the countries in Europe. So you could say there's 2 billion people, but what's the proportionality? What is the percentage of people being born that are white? Where's the arrow pointing? Where are we going to be in 50 years? In 50 years, there might be in Israel. In 50 years, there's going to be white Christendom.
You don't believe people should get married, right?
I think people should get married. I'm a Christian.
You're basically anti-marriage, really. You've talked about this. You've talked about.
Are we done talking about white genocide?
Well, I'm coming to the same part because you seem very resistant to the idea of marriage. You've never got married. You've talked very scathingly about henpecked husbands. Let's take a look.
That's true. Guys get to a certain age and they're like, you know what? Women suck. Like they're talking too much. They're not hot anymore. Like you're fat, you're chubby, you're not as hot as you think you are. You fucking talk too much. You're a bitch.
So we'll obviously get to the brazen misogyny part of that.
All of that is true. All of that is true. And once again, it's all because of the feminist propaganda. The first wave feminism, second wave feminism, third wave feminism, and now the fourth wave, where women are not even women anymore. Now even men are better women than women themselves. And maybe it's because they talk less. Maybe that's the reason why they are better women than the women themselves. But okay, let's see what Piers have to say.
A little later. But I'm just curious. On the one hand, there's this terrible genocide going on with white people. On the other hand, you want people effectively to stop going near women because they all turn out to be so ghastly, so they shouldn't presumably procreate. So how does that work? I mean, aren't you, with your rhetoric, actively encouraging men not to associate with these ghastly women, therefore not have any more children? Therefore, you are contributing, Nick Fuentes, to the diminishing white population. I'm confused.
I tell my followers to get married all the time. I tell them that it's best for everybody to get married. And I think that's the only way that you can have sex. I think that's the only licit way as a Catholic is to have sex is within marriage.
Why don't you get married?
I'll get married later. It's been difficult for me because people are shooting at me in my house. I don't know that I don't want to have kids and a wife. You know, my wife would be screaming about that. Me, you know, I have to be able to take risks and be able to say these things. It's difficult to bring a family into a life that's like that. But for my followers,
So, I mean, this is again, so disingenuous from Piers Morgan. It's normal for men to focus on their careers first, establish their career, and then marry with someone. Usually, if you marry young as a man, it's not going to be a good idea for your future unless you are from a family that has intergenerational wealth, even if it's not like for massive amount. And like Nick is saying, like if you would have a family now, he would be putting themselves at risk. And we know that men should be on the front lines. And Nick, even that I don't agree with everything that he is doing, he's putting himself in the front line. He has been putting himself in the front line for the last 10 years. And again, even that I don't agree with everything, at least he has been pushing the narrative in a way that is going to free us from the shackles that we have been held by for the last 70 years or so.
I tell them to get married. But what's happening with women...
You literally just told your followers, hang on, in that clip you literally told followers, women, they get old, they get fat, they get ugly, they get very annoying. So where's the incentive to get married to women? There isn't one. You're actively telling them...
You're extrapolating a lot.
Just quoting you back yourself again.
No, but you're extrapolating and saying, well, you say women are annoying, so therefore, what's the incentive? We have to do it in spite of the fact that they are annoying. We have to do it in spite of the fact that they talk too much. We can get...
Yeah, exactly. So this, what Nick Fuentes is saying right now, it's extremely important. And especially if you are a white man, you should not go marry a big booty Latina or a anime girl, Asian, whatever. No, white girls right now, they are more annoying because they have been exposed more to feminist propaganda. But by the way, this is spreading. The propaganda is spreading to black women, Asian women, and Latinas as well. So if you think you are going for a Latina and you're not going to have the same problems, yes, you will. So you should make the self-sacrifice, which is not a sacrifice, by the way. It's not a sacrifice. You should make this sacrifice of marrying with white women, even if they are super annoying. Yeah, they are super annoying nowadays, but you have been firm on your ground. And if you're going to take the easy route to the Latinas and so on, it just shows that you are a weak loser. You are an absolute weak loser if you cannot handle a white girl and you have to go for some Latina because she cooks your dinner more often or whatever else, or you go for the Asian and then all your kids look at you like this, like, bro, are those even your kids? Like, you don't even know for sure. When you are taking the easy option, you don't even know for sure if those kids are yours or not. So, again, keep that in mind. And don't be a weak-ass pussy beta male that cannot handle a white girl. And if you get a white girl, make her pregnant. Don't waste your time raising dogs and cats and so on like that. Because that's such a loser instinct that it's just, that's just disgusting.
Get them to lose weight. We can put them on peptides. We can get them to the promised land, but it's going to be...
The biggest deal with women may be why none of them want to go near you.
Oh, you should see my DMs. It is quite the opposite. They're called the Groy bets, and I'm actually batting them away. Granted, not all of them are attractive. Some of them are attractive.
Are you actually, just to clear up one of the many theories about you, I have no idea what the answer is, and you haven't got an answer, but are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No. But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And if he was gay, like, I think he's a little bit gay. He is definitely very flamboyant. He might be a little bit gay or bi or something like that. But again, we can make decisions in our lives. Even if he's flamboyant, even if he's bisexual or even gay, he can make the decision, the right decision for his kind to marry with a woman and to have kids, because he wants more of himself in the world. So that's fine. We are rational creatures, and we are not controlled by impulses. Even that these impulses affect us, we are not controlled by them entirely. So keep this in mind, and again, make conscious decisions of what's good for your life, because if you don't make good conscious decisions of what you want for the future, believe me, sooner or later, you're going to pay for those bad decisions that you made.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
If women are not going to the front lines, and they should not go to the front lines, they do not have the right to vote. When you are voting, you are putting the lives of other people at risk, and this is why migrants and women should not be able to vote. Black people should vote for black people, country rules. White people should vote for white people, country rules. Jews should vote for themselves, and they are already doing bad enough, which is terrible. And women, once again, they are not on the front lines. And women are easily manipulated with propaganda. So because of that, because of their psychological conditions that are natural to women, it's genetic, there is nothing you can do about it, they should not vote. Whether we like this or not, my mother is very political active. She has been participating on elections and stuff like that, and she's been elected, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Even that she's a very strong politician, she also agrees that yes, there are limitations for women in political situations. And if you cannot have this bias, if you cannot have this reasoning that allows you to see beyond your emotions, then absolutely, women should not be allowed to vote. It's just the way it is.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you?
Oh, misogynistic. Oh my God, another label, another tag.
You're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy, have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid.
That's the thing, though. You boomers, it's always get laid, free love.
What about it? What if he never had sex? First off, he's a Catholic. Now, I would tell you right away that it's not good for you to not have sex. It's something that it just gives you the reality that it's not a big deal, and you should do it because it's fun and it's interesting. And from someone that was having sex with multiple women at the same time, again, what does that have to do with anything? The girls are going to be less annoying just because of that? It's not the case. Just because you are getting laid makes you softer. So it makes you more likely to accept their abuse, their nagging, their annoying bullshit. So not having laid makes you more focused on your goals. So the fact that Nick is doing this, it's great for him if he's really focusing on his career. Even that, like I said, it's something that you should do, not super early, around your 20s or so, because it just gives you a reality of the animal that you are. Because sometimes people forget that we are animals, and it's important.
Given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. You're talking about empathy, and your kids are empathetic, and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust, and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem. So yeah, we are going back.
Play another clip of yours about women.
Again, it's such a loser attitude from Piers Morgan to you are a virgin, bro. Oh, you are a virgin. It's like so low IQ. We are 2 hours in, pretty much, and it's back-to-back low IQ arguments. Piers Morgan should be ashamed of himself that is at such a low level when it comes to reasoning. It's so low. It's no higher than like a a 12-year-old. The argumentation that he uses, like a 10-year-old, maybe 10-year-old, 12-year-old, something like that, it's just that low. Like, bro, it's a shame. You are a boomer. You're a boomer and you think like this, you talk like this. It's crazy. And again, you are shaming him for something that it's own personal decision. It has nothing to do with your society as a whole, and it has nothing to do with you. It's his personal choice. It's not like you are a big defender of homosexuality and stuff like that. So why is it okay in one thing what people do in their private life, and on the case for Nick Fuentes, oh, it's a problem. Oh, like, bro, come on.
A lot of women want to be raped, and when I say raped, I mean like, that sounds bad when I say it like that, but there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them, but also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
It's true.
You think women want to be raped, do you?
Women have all kinds of rape fantasies. If you analyze what kind of videos women watch on porn websites, it's all about rape fantasies. And again, it's just the reality of it. These are the facts. So the fact that he's saying this, the fact that Nick Fuentes is mentioning a fact, is just the way it is. Some women like it very rough, other ones not so much. It depends on the size of your dick. So I don't know. It's just the way it is. It's just the reality of it.
That's what the studies show, Piers. That is what these statistics
what you
say.
believe.
They have
Absolutely.
They have fantasies about it. I don't think that
I can talk from experience.
But there's a study out there. Get ready for this. It says
a lot of the girls that I dated, they would tell me, do it while I'm sleeping. Doing something while they are sleeping, it's a type of rape. Now, I never did it. By the way, I never did it. But they would ask me for this, to do this, because it's a type of fantasy they have. It's just the way it is. A lot of women have this kind of fantasy. There are a lot of women that do not have this fantasy. So, again, it goes both ways.
62% of women have rape fantasies. And if you read anything that they're reading, if you watch what they're watching, what do you think 50 Shades of Grey is about? What do you think Twilight is about? I mean,
absolutely. 50 Shades of Grey, it's all about rape fantasies. Twilight, I have no idea, but 50 Shades of Grey, it's 100% related to this, and they made how many books? Tons of books. How many movies they made? Tons of movies. How many women were watching these? Tons and tons. I think I watched it with some cousin or something like that. It was full of women, full of like 40, 50, and 60-year-old women. 30, of course, 30 as well. So they are all interested in this type of things, especially if it's some like buff the breach guy and something like this that spells like power, right? Physical power, but also monetary power as well. It's something that women fantasize about. It's just the way it is. And the men taking what they want. Women love that shit. So it's just what it is.
You think women want to have the shit beaten out of them, as you said?
Yeah, and it's very disturbing, but it's true.
Do you think your views on women might change if you actually ever had a relationship with one or had sex and actually had a proper relationship?
Again, it's such a bullshit argument. Again, I had a relationship with multiple women at the same time, and this was a fact. This does not change anything. You can have a relationship with hundreds of women, and it's going to be pretty much the same. It's the 60%, 70% or so that women have this type of fantasies. So him saying that, oh, you think if you lose your virginity, you think this is going to be very different? No, it's not going to be different. It's just the way it is. That's why I'm saying that at some point in time, you should have sex just to realize that it's not this big deal that people seem to be, but it's something that you should do because you are an animal and you should practice your animalistic behaviors just to make sure that you are in tune with the nature of the universe.
I mean, people say the reason you're so angry about women is you're basically an incel.
I'm not angry about it.
You sound very angry. You sound very, very angry about women.
People talk about incels all the time. What about femcells? What about femcells? Femcells is something that we have to talk a lot more because there are tons and tons of women that they can get fucked if they want to, but they cannot get relationships. And because of that, they are becoming femcells. Femcells. They want these relationships, they want to have sex with these men that they cannot obtain. So when are we going to start talking about femcells? I think that's going to be a more important topic than incels on their own.
they get
passionate.
It's
an issue I'm passionate about.
You're sounding very bitter about women, as if women have done a terrible disservice to you. But when you don't have relationships, you don't have sex, when are they doing these terrible things to you that's made you so hateful towards women? I'm really curious.
Was that? I don't think that was a hateful clip. I think I was laughing. I said they want men to beat the shit out of them, and that's just true. I mean, when you look at the state of modern women, all they do is lay in their bed, doom scroll. They're chilling out. They're getting a little fat. It is what it is. I don't know what the average weight is, but they're getting a little heavy. And any guy that is playing the field these days will tell you that. I mean,
By the way, something that we have to mention is that this feminist narrative that we have, it has a correlation with also with Islam countries, and Islamic countries are countries that men abuse of women. So the fact that we have this synergy between feminism and Islam, it once again confirms this narrative that Nick Fuentes is mentioning, is that women want men that take what they want, even that is not quote-unquote socially acceptable, especially on Christian backgrounds and Catholic backgrounds. But we have to be very honest. We created a society where we are treating women like they are all princesses, and they are not all princesses. In the past, women had to work. In the past, women had to do physical work, and because of that, they had more modesty. Now, because it's not the case, now because we grow our women like they're all princesses, and again, like with me having children, I'm probably going to make the same mistake, even that I'm trying not to make the same mistake. We have to keep them anchored. Anchored, is it how you say it? We need to keep them with a reality check all the time. It's those hot air balloons that they need to have a chain to the floor so they don't fly away out into space. Otherwise, it's just crazy. So again, what Nick Fuentes is saying is all truth. And unfortunately, as a whole, in white societies, we have been committing this problem, especially since Disney show up. It's like everyone is a Disney princess, which it's very dangerous for women themselves, because they will grow this narcissism that after will not allow them to have healthy relationships with their husbands.
And I know a lot of the Chads. I am an incel. I'm friends with a lot of Chads, like Bradley Martin, Clavicular. They agree with me. You know, there's sort of like this alliance between the guys that don't have sex and the guys that get the most sex. We know what women are about. It's the guys in the middle. Guys like you in the middle. It's the beta male orbiters that say,
beta male orbiters.
You're a misogynist pig.
Yes.
I don't know what that is. I guess.
Well, let me explain to you what I think.
Piers Morgan is such a beta male orbiter, loser, a simp, cock, probably. Because again, they have to do everything women want for them to get laid. If you are this type of man, if you are the type of man that needs to be bossed around by women to get laid, bro, you are a loser. You are an absolute L. You are a walking L. So Nick Fuentes here is absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct that, yeah, I mean, again, Piers Morgan is just a walking L, and saying that Nick Fuentes is bad for not having sex. Well, again, doing everything that women want, being bossed around by women, it makes you a bigger loser than the virgin. So, yeah, let's keep that in mind.
I think when a 27-year-old guy who's never got laid, never had a meaningful relationship with a woman, says that women shouldn't be allowed to vote, they should stay at home, that all they do is fantasize about being raped and being beaten up, that's what they want, that they're annoying, that they get fat, that they get ugly, that's a misogynist. Now, you may not understand it because your knowledge of women is so incredibly tiny, but actually, you are the embodiment of a misogynist. It couldn't be clearer. And
there is nothing wrong with being a misogynist. It's just the way it is. We are just stating facts. If stating facts is being a misogynist, then, well, it's just the way it is. Between being a misogynist and promoting weak men, promoting narcissistic woman, promoting third wave feminism, then you should be a misogynist. We need to stop misogynism before women destroy themselves with Islam or with other kinds of culture, like, for example, black culture, that rape and kill tons and tons of women every year throughout the world. So, is that better for a woman? Is it better to be misogynist? Or is it better for you to let yourself get into these gangs and these situations that might compromise your entire life or get you killed? I think being misogynist and being around misogynists is going to be a lot better, and a lot better for society.
If I was in a way, you have the deep-rooted misogyny of some of the actual boomers I know. Yeah, here you are, 27 years old, and most of the current studies show that
nothing wrong with that.
Are really disenfranchised from society, no longer have physical relationships with women if they've ever had them, never associate with women, and build
tons of femcells as well.
Misogynist views about women, and I fear you're in that position. You're just a bit of a lonely guy who wants to get laid and can't for whatever reason. And it's made you bitter about women. And I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that Nick, with the way he is, that he has tons and tons of people that want to give lay to him. But comes down to his personal choice. And again, it's this situation where I feel like he's a little bit flamboyant. I feel like he's probably bisexual. And because of that, he has to put an effort into doing the thing. And it's not convenient for him right now. It's just the way it is. At some point, he will have his 3 white kids or so, or Mexican kids or whatever. And life goes on. Maybe on the sides, he's going to meet with Destiny and suck each other's dick or something like that. But it's not a priority. And we had tons and tons of examples of this throughout history. There were tons and tons of guys that were homosexual, but at the same time, they had their families, they had their wives, they had their kids, and so on. And it might be a trauma for the kids if they ever learn about this, but it's nothing new, right? And from Piers Morgan, it seems like he's a little bit homophobic, but yeah, I don't know. Virgin-phobic as well. Virgin-phobic.
I don't know where that's come from, but it's fascinating.
No, see, here's the thing. First of all, you're very caught up in the labels. It's always, you're a racist, you're a misogynist.
You said you were a racist.
To me. Well, hey, can I respond?
You gave yourself the label. You said, I am a racist. I didn't give you the label. Okay. You said, Fuentes, I am a racist.
Calm down.
Did you or didn't you?
Okay.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I didn't give you the label. You did.
Why are you yelling at me?
Because you're trying to infer something that didn't happen. You said, I gave you the label of being a racist. No, you did. You said, I'm a racist. You gave yourself a label.
You're going to have to tone it down a little, all right? You're going to have to bring it down a notch and relax. This is just an interview, okay? Please.
Nick Fuentes put a 60-year-old man in its place. This is absolutely insane. This shows who's the alpha between these two. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Calm down. All I said is you're hung up. I didn't say you gave me that. Maybe I did. But here's what I mean. What I mean is you're just hung up on saying, I'm proving you're a misogynist. Okay, you're a racist. Okay, you deny the Holocaust. And I'm not about the labels, man. I'm just past that.
As I said to you, look, Nick, I just wanted to go over the stuff that everyone uses out there about you and get you to respond. And we are getting, I think, a long way in this interview. Right? Okay. You didn't deny the Holocaust. You accepted there's been a Holocaust of at least 6 million Jews.
I'm a maximalist. I'm a Holocaust.
That is significant. You did admit you're a...
He doesn't, again, Piers does not understand that Nick Fuentes is saying he's a maximalist when it comes to the Holocaust, because once again, we have more and more Holocaust survivors showing up out of nowhere. It's absolutely insane.
Racist. And you have spelled out a thought process about women, which is the purest definition of misogyny that I've ever seen. And
there is nothing wrong with that.
Somewhere.
Yeah, well, look, and I own the labels, okay? But I just don't care that much about that. I feel like the whole, this is like a weird...
I'm not saying you have to care, Nick. You don't have to care about any of it. I promise you. Right, that's not why I got you on the show. I wanted to give you a fair crack, which I think I have. We've gone over a lot of stuff. We've got a bit more to go on. I genuinely don't think I've ambushed you with anything you couldn't have been expecting.
No.
I don't think I've been overtly hostile. In fact, when you've asked me to calm down, I've calmed down. I don't want to have a hostile, angry, shouty match with you. I simply want you to spell out exactly what you've meant about all these things, and people can then be the judge of them. So let's take another break, and we'll come back and talk about Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and others. Okay, back to Nick Fuentes. You began your show in 2017, the same year as Trump was inaugurated for his first term in office. You supported him at that time, but you've grown increasingly disillusioned, I think it'd be fair to say. Let's play a recent clip from you about Trump.
We played this game in the first term. We're 10 years in. And you still have these people, I hate to say it, but they're just like in denial. And they're like, okay, everybody, let's all go on Twitter and let's tell Trump, don't screw over your voters. Okay, hey, Trump, don't hire John Ratcliffe in the CIA. Like, what are we doing? We lost, it's over. The time to make demands was during the election when he needed the votes. He's a lame duck president. He doesn't need anything from us. He's not even on Twitter. He's on Truth Social. So what are you talking about? We're going to all rally and tell him, don't hire yet another neocon?
Now, over the weekend, you posted this on X.
100%
cruelty
true.
is the perfect phrase to characterize the Trump admin and the mood of the MAGA movement. In order to compensate for his compromises and failures, Trump has to fall back on mean-spiritedness to appeal to the basest instincts of his followers. It's really sad. I mean, do you think you're the best person, Nick Fuentes, to lecture people about performative cruelty?
Why, are you accusing me of being cruel? Is that what that is? Yeah. How am I cruel?
You're cruel about black people. You're cruel about women.
Cruel.
You're cruel about a lot of people. And you're very performative.
Okay. I don't think I'm performative. If anything, everyone else is performative.
Being assertive on his thoughts, being assertive on his beliefs, it's not being cruel. Hurting other people's feelings and this cruelty that he might be implying, this is something very subjective, and it's something that it will depend based on who's experiencing it. Woman will feel like Nick Fuentes is a lot more cruel than some black guy from the hood. So it's just the way it is. It's very subjective. So once again, Piers Morgan, once again, like using the lowest of the lowest.
If I'm authentic, whatever you want to say about me, it's real, it's from the gut. But yes, I do think it's performative. And what I mean by that is, when they're doing the deportations, they know the deportations are not where the base wants them to be. They deported, the figures are disputed, but from my data, it's 300,000 in the year, which is not a massive deportation. They know the base is unhappy with that. So what do? The deportations that they are carrying out, they do a big spectacle, and they arrest everybody, and they film it, and they put a hype at it, and there's a meanness in there. They played that song, I think from Sabrina Carpenter or something, and they make it a joke, they make it glib, and they do that because they're not delivering on the promise, so they compensate by doing it meaner, edgier, more mean-spirited, so that the base will overlook the fact that it's not happening. And I think that's by definition performative cruelty. You can call me a hypocrite, but it's definitely true about what they're doing in the administration.
You went to see Trump at Mar-a-Lago with Ye for dinner. What was that like?
It was very interesting. They're my two heroes. Ye is my hero. Trump is my hero. Even though he's very disappointing, I still a personal hero of mine. And he's a remarkable person. It was a great conversation. We got along pretty well. He liked me. I liked him. It was a love fest.
I mean, he got attacked afterwards for supping with the white supremacist devil. I mean, do you accept you are a white supremacist?
No, absolutely not.
You don't think white people are superior to black people?
No, I'm a Christian, so I believe everybody is equal before God.
Okay, so I mean, white, again, supremacist, it's such a stupid term. Is there anyone more supremacist than Jews? There is not. There is not. The amount of people that would say, the amount of white people that would say that they are white supremacists is like 0.001%. You have way more black supremacists than you have white supremacists. You have all these people that believe that black people invented the pyramids and they had the flying discs and things like that. You have way more of that than the opposite. And again, we have to focus on the Jews, right? The orange Jews. They are way more supremacists, and that's why they are killing Palestinians. That's why they are mistreating white people and black people and Asian people and so on, because they think everyone else is cattle. It's not the case otherwise. White people, they go to Africa, they are very respectful, they help the culture there. They go to Asia, they help the culture there. I can say that from experience because I'm Portuguese and we colonized pretty much the entire world. And it's just the way it is. We are not about this supremacist thing. Having self-preference, if you prefer white skin, what's the problem about that? Asians prefer that too. That's why they use umbrellas during the summer. It's just the way it is. It's a preference. There is nothing supremacist about that. Now, is white skin better at absorbing vitamin D rather than black skin? Yes. Is that a component that you can use to justify your supremacy? I don't know. Does black skin absorbs more heat than white skin and therefore it creates more global warming? Yes, that's just a fact based on science. Is that something that you should use to justify your quote-unquote supremacy that no one believes in or acts by? No, absolutely not. So this word of supremacy, it only works with Jewish people because they are the only ones that behave in this specific way. And beyond that, it's just so low IQ from Piers Morgan. But what can we expect from it?
Including women?
Yes.
So you give women equal rights then?
No.
Great. Oh, great. Okay, so you just talked a little bullshit, didn't you?
It's not bullshit. It's not bullshit because it's not the same thing. Men that go to war, they should be the ones to vote because they are the ones putting their lives on the line. Women, on the other hand, they can choose over other things. They can choose what is for dinner or which products they're going to use to clean the bathroom. That's fine. They can make those decisions. They can go to the beach while the man is at work with the kids. That's fine. No problem with that. So again, we cannot put men and women on the same situation because they are not the same. They perform different functions in society and they should work in a way that they complete each other rather than compete against each other because they are not made to compete against each other. If they would make to compete against each other, men would always win, but they are complementary, not for competition, not to use against each other. So it's just a reality.
Oh, why are you mad about this? No,
you want women to be
are
treated
different.
equally before God, but you don't want to give them equal rights.
Yeah, because women and men are different. Do you believe there are two genders?
It's your view.
Do you think there's two genders?
I do think there are two genders, yes.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so you think there's distinction. There are two distinct genders.
I think we should all have the same rights.
Well, if they're meaningfully distinct, biologically distinct, and they have different social and biological roles, I think it would follow that we would treat them a little bit differently in the law.
Do you think the Catholic Church's teachings reflect that?
For example, what Nick's saying right now, it's extremely important. Women, if they are working, they have a lot more time off, and they should be paid for having kids. This is what happens in countries like Hungary, where a woman can spend a lot more time at home and still get their salary while they are taking care of the children. And that's a benefit for a woman. So what's the problem with that? If you're getting all these benefits, and you don't vote, would you not prefer to have those benefits? More free time, more money, more stuff for you to choose what to do, more freedom overall. Is that not better than voting? And who's creating these laws? It's men. Men are creating these laws. It's not women. Most of the time, women don't even care about voting. They don't care about politics overall. It's just something that is not interesting for them because it's boring. Men care about politics, not women. So all these decisions that we are making is men making the decisions, not women. So let's keep that clear.
I do. Yeah, there's no female priests. Have you ever seen that?
Do you think that the Catholic Church thinks all women should be deprived of the vote?
Yeah, I think so.
No, they don't.
I think they do, yeah.
You think the Catholic Church position is women shouldn't be allowed to vote?
I think so, yeah, but I'm not positive.
No,
Who cares about the Catholic Church? Let's be
So if
honest.
you were Pope, that's what you do. You could be Pope because you're celibate.
That's true. And I'm also from Chicago, like the Pope. But look, I mean, women, it says in the Bible that women have no authority over men, and they can't teach men, and that's why there's no female priests.
There's a lot of things in the Bible. I mean, do you think every word of the Bible is sacrosanct?
Well, yeah, it's inspired scripture.
That's it. All of it is
now
all of it is
a
sacrosanct.
theological debate. Well, it is Catholic doctrine that women should not lead and teach. I mean, you're not interacting with what I'm saying. Why can't women be priests?
There should be.
Okay, well, you're not Catholic.
Why?
That's not a Catholic
Why?
position.
Catholic. There's many things I disagree with the Catholic Church.
Okay. Well, that kind of is contrary because the whole basis of being Catholic is accepting. Yes, it's accepting the authority of the
You
pontiff.
can be a member of a religion and disagree with parts of that religion. Perfectly reasonable.
He could be. Well, yeah. I mean, you could say
You're
that, but it would
extremist.
be true.
If you're extremist, you can't. Obviously, you never deviate.
That's just not rigorous.
You never
That's just
deviate if
sloppy.
you're extremist. But even the
That's just sloppy.
Constitution's been amended, was it 27 times? You're talking about this sacrosanct document. It's been amended 27 times. Yeah.
Oh my, this is not rigorous intellectually. This is very. This is
just a statement of
calculated
fact.
theology. Okay, but it's fine. Where were we? We're talking about Trump. That's not what we got into. You're white knighting for women's rights.
Well, I think women should have the same rights as you and I. You don't. That's fine.
Put on the pink hat, bro. Put on the pink hat. We're waiting.
What's the pink hat for?
For the march, for the women's march. Are we going to see you at the women's march, protesting for women's rights and all that?
I think women should have equal rights to men.
Carry tampons in case your female friend's going to be or something. Like, it's crazy.
I'd have no problem giving a female friend a tampon. Would you? I don't suppose you've ever seen a tampon, have you?
Gross. Absolutely not. Go take that away.
He has a sister, he said it himself, he has a sister, he has a mother, for sure you have seen a tampon. Why is Piers Morgan talking about tampons? It's just so fucking retarded. Oh my god, this is so absolutely insane.
Tampons are gross.
Yeah, they're filled with period blood. Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Wow.
Are you into that? You like that?
Yes, they are definitely gross. They have blood, they have coagulated blood sometimes. It's not clear like water. So yes, it can be gross for some people. It has a very strong smell because of iron, because again, it's blood. So to say that it's not gross, of course it is. It's gross for everyone, even for women themselves. But they have to live with it because it's part of their biology. And this is another point where a woman can get special privileges apart from voting that are beneficial to them, like getting discounts for women's products. That should be fine. I think every man would agree with that. I think every man would have zero problems with that. So again, this conversation is just so ridiculous. Piers Morgan is taking this to a place that is just, again, it reminds me of not high school, like secondary school or something where you have like 10 years old or 12 years old, and you are saying this type of retarded bullshit. Maybe not even 10 years old, maybe 8 years old. I think that would be more appropriate. It's just so fucking retarded.
I don't think you've ever seen it, have you?
I've seen them. I've seen them before.
You've been that close to a woman? Really?
No,
He has a mother, he has a sister. Like, bro, what are you talking about? They have lived in the same household. You don't expect them? Oh, yeah, because maybe he thinks that everyone lives in a mansion. Oh, yeah, maybe that's the case.
I've seen them. Look, I used to live with women, so I've seen them around the
I bet
house.
you've seen videos, haven't you?
What? What are we doing here,
I've seen
Piers?
videos of tampons.
You're more impressed.
Bro, like, what is Piers Morgan revealing here? He's revealing some of the stuff he watches? What the hell?
I'm a misogynist than you are about anything. It's
Not
very
really.
revealing.
I'm actually more exercised about your blatant, self-admitted racism than I'm about.
I see.
Oh, here we go.
A close second. Let me
Cycle
ask you about
back
Tucker
to the
Carlson. You had
same
a long sit down
bullshit.
with Tucker Carlson, which he was, oddly, I like Tucker. We got on well. I was with him last week in London. But he gave me a harder time than he gives you. And then afterwards, he was more critical. And then you said this about Tucker.
He's a handler. He handles people. That's what he does. He's a fucking liar and a handler. He goes around telling people, I don't know anything. I don't know. Oh, I know nothing. I don't even have a phone. I am just a clueless tourist. I just travel to all these countries and, I don't trust him. And I don't care, maybe that alienates me from people in the conservative movement. I don't care. I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not going to be a party to whatever that is. Whatever that CIA bullshit is, I'm not going to be a part of it. So, now that I've heard enough from Tucker and I've heard enough from other people and I've seen enough, this guy's not who he says he is. Not an ally. Stay the fuck away from me. You're weird, dude. You're weird.
See what we're being...
Okay, so the big problem here is that Nick has exactly the same behavior as Tucker Carlson. I agree with him. I like Tucker most of the time, but there are many things that Tucker say that it gets me like, bro, what are you trying to say? For example, in terms of race, he acts like everyone is a grey blob, which is very strange for a conservative, that he has this perspective, oh, I don't see race, I don't see color, I don't see anything, when there are clear characteristics on the individuals of each of the groups. The same way that we have with tigers, the same way we have with leopards and cheetahs and lions and house cats. It's the same thing. And the problem is Nick is that he has the same behavior. He goes to Tucker, he talks in a way. Then on his live stream, he talks in a different way. Then to his audience, he starts to talk trash to his audience. I mean, Nick suffers exactly of the same thing that Tucker does, but he's even more narcissistic about it, which I'm not sure is going to be good for his future, but it's up to him to decide if he's going to keep this behavior or not.
Great, as if you said that to him when you were sitting opposite him.
Well, when I was sitting opposite him at the dinner and in the interview, he was nothing but nice. He was very nice to me and very cordial, and he didn't call me an anti-Semite, and he didn't even press me on it at all. And I thought he would, and I almost wanted him to. He was nothing but nice, and we had a great time. We had a really great dinner, really great interview, and I felt really good about it. And the next week on my show, I said, he really surprised me, he's great. And then every interview he's done since, all he does is call me an anti-Semite. He goes, well, I hate his anti-Semitism, and I wonder why people like him. And so I just think that's two-faced. So after that experience, it kind of turned me off. I didn't like that, but he's going to do what he's going to do. He's still a nice guy, but I think he's two-faced.
What about Candace Owens? You had a sit down with her. She called you out on a few of your more incendiary comments. You've been attacking her quite virulently recently. What's going on there?
Well, it's me and her. We're so complicated. We're on and off. It's very passionate on both sides. I think there's this intense desire to be friends, but a frustration. We disagree with each other. There's a rivalry. But I thought we were going to have a friendly conversation, and then she kind of did the same thing.
The thing about Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes is that both of them find Kanye West as their hero, right? So they have this thing in common. Plus, Nick Fuentes likes certain type of music that Candace likes as well. And they have this chemistry that is a little bit too crazy, maybe. But on top of that, Nick Fuentes is a little bit jealous of Candace. Let's be honest. She's a black woman, independent black woman who needs no man. She always had the support of PragerU and Daily Wire and so on. She was always carried on a silver platter, maybe we can say that. Maybe it's not the case, but I mean, she does a lot of work, let's be honest. She definitely pulls her own weight and more. And on the other hand, we have Nick that he was always being pushed down and no one is helping him out and so on. So it creates this dynamic where he feels maybe a little bit of injustice in regards to both of them situations. And of course, he might feel a little bit jealous of how successful Candace Owens is, and maybe he would like to be on a position, and because they don't have this friendly relationship like Candace had with Charlie, Nick maybe feels a little bit jealous. Maybe he wanted the same thing. Maybe he wanted to taste the chocolate mama, but unfortunately, it's just the way it is. And being like so angry about it and bitter about it is not going to help, and makes him look weak. It's actually one of his one of his biggest weakness is these diversions that he has. It really makes him very, very weak. So yeah, anyway.
We're going to go on a show during the war with Iran. We're literally in the middle of a war. And she texted me the day before the United States bombed Fort O. And she said, would you like to come on my show? I said, absolutely. I said, is this going to be about Iran? She goes, I don't do setups. I said, yeah, let's do it. I come on the show, and then she's like got this weird hostile demeanor. She's doing the clip thing. Then she puts it behind a paywall. It was ridiculous. So that really was not nice. And then I think this whole Charlie Kirk thing, I think she's gone insane. I think she's absolutely lost her mind. So I feel sorry for her husband.
What did you feel when Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Where were you when you heard about it?
I was at my house, and a friend of mine who was actually at the event texted me. I said, Charlie got shot. I said, who? He said, Charlie Kirk. I said, oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Ooh, Nick Fuentes had a friend at an event. Ooh, now maybe we have confirmation that Nick Fuentes is a Fed and he was part of it. That's the next step of the conspiracy.
And honestly, it was devastating.
It's a joke, by the way. It's a joke.
We had an intense rivalry and he hated me. But honest to God, I was devastated. I was emotionally affected by it. I didn't even do a show that night because I was beside myself. So it was rough. I mean, it was hard to watch.
For example, the type of weakness that Nick shows towards Candace, it was the same type of weakness that Charlie shows towards Nick. The fact that he never gave him a platform, the fact that he never debated him, just made him look like such a soy beta loser that is not able to withstand, oh, I don't give platform to trolls or whatever like that. Bro, you are just a weak loser when you're acting like this. And the same goes for Nick. Like, this aversions that you are having towards candies, it's the same thing. I think you should guys meet once again and try to immediate fix the situation. And if you can't, well, move on to each their own way, and just ignore each other. That's it. There is nothing else you can do about it. If you don't want to accumulate, to have a coexistence, each one has to take their own route, which I think it's fine anyway.
When you say you're beside yourself, I mean, you hate him.
I don't hate anybody. I didn't hate him, but I really didn't like him. I intensely disliked him. And
we have to really use the word hate with it's careful. Like, hate is something that really implies that you go out of your way to hurt the other person, and throwing these words around, it's like love. Like, Americans really overuse the word love, and Piers is not American, but anyway, it's part of the culture. And like, love, hate, throw these words around, like, bro, like, it's just way too much. Like, please avoid doing this type of situations where you are overusing and overvaluing certain words.
He called you vermin, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he hated me also.
But you were still beside yourself when you heard what happened to him.
I was. I thought it was disgusting what was done to him, and it was tragic, and it was horrifying.
Do you fear an attack like that on yourself if you up your own security because of this? Because your profile's got exponentially higher since what happened to Charlie Kirk.
I have increased my security, and but something similar like that happened to me. Someone came to my house with a gun about a year ago, almost exactly, trying to kill me, and he was shot and killed in my alleyway. So I've had increased security for a while. It's a bad time out there, and I do believe it was a left-wing person that killed him. I think it was a left-wing person that tried to kill me. So yeah, I take it very seriously.
Elon Musk said on his X platform that you're a Fed, that you're a paid-up hire of the government. Is that true?
No.
Maybe.
100. You've never worked for the government in any capacity.
I've never talked to federal law enforcement. And actually, I've testified to that fact under oath when I was subpoenaed by the Congress. People leave that part out. But I got subpoenaed, I think, in January 2022, I think it was. And I was deposed by the subcommittee, the House Select Subcommittee, on January 6th. And they asked me, did you speak with any federal law enforcement? And under oath, I said, no, I've never had contact with them. I've never turned over devices. So no, absolutely not.
There's been footage that's come out again this week. This is you at the January the 6th riots. Let's take a look. Now, you're heard there shouting down your loud hailer, break down the barriers and disregard the police. The capital belongs to us now. What did you mean by that?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The capital belongs to the people.
Disregard the police. You don't support law and order.
No, I support law and order, but on that day, the police were brutal. The police killed somebody, Ashley Babbitt. And, they were throwing people off of the rafters. They killed multiple people. So,
well, disregarding the police is the first step to anarchy, isn't it?
Well, I think the first step to anarchy is when the government rigs the election, which is what happened. That is when the government loses its legitimacy, and its enforcers, consequently, do also.
But there's no evidence the government rigged the election. You know that.
Yes, there is. There was, back in the day, there was tons and tons of videos of them putting ballots at 2 a.m. There were tons and tons of videos about this on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. Everywhere you saw tons and tons of videos. And this was before AI was popular. Those videos were real. And what happened to all those people putting those videos? Everyone got banned until the last person that had those videos. And they were lost to history. And that's a big problem. That's how you control the narrative. That's what, once again, Jews have been trying to do for the last 3 generations, the last 70 years. And it has not been working. But for those elections, well, it worked because, it already passed the 4 years. So there is nothing you can do now.
You're a bright guy.
Well, let's talk about it. Do you want to talk about the election of 2020?
Yeah, I think Trump lost it fair and square. I think he fought the wrong argument about the stolen election. I've said to him, to his face,
I agree.
The argument he should have said is that the deliberate suppression of things like the Hunter Biden laptop scandal from the media, by social media, by big tech, was actually a deliberate attempt to subvert the result of the election. And that is a much better argument because it's undeniable. When the New York Post that had that exclusive were basically shadow banned off all social media for the 2 weeks before the election, that was an absolute disgrace. And if I was Donald Trump, I would focus
this
on
is
that
true.
as
Yeah.
being my main argument that election
this is true. Everything. No one denies it.
Saying that there was widespread rigging and voter systems were wrong. We've litigated all this now through various court cases. Various Republican judges have ruled there was no rigging of that kind. In fact, the American election system is accepted by most people around the world as being one of the best in the world, one of the most reliable.
Absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. There are tons and tons of cases of easily rigging the voting machines. And this is why many countries that have higher levels of democracy than the United States use you have to go there, vote, you have to show your ID, and you have only one specific location where you can vote, and that's it. And the votes have to be in paper. Any kind of miscellaneous thing is going to be nullify the vote, and that's it. It's very, very simple. And for you to do mail-in voting, you have to announce it at least 1 month or so ahead. So yeah, in that regard, like other countries, they have much, much safer elections, and multiple people of different factions need to look at those votes. You cannot do this with a machine or anything like that. It needs to be humans doing that and multiple humans confirming it. So saying that Americans have like one of the best systems in the world, it's absolutely fake news. Like, this is absolutely untrue, and anyone reasonable would agree with that. There are many, many ways, and especially because the machines were connected to the internet. And nowadays, you can easily hack any device. Nowadays, and even 5 years ago, you could easily hack those machines, especially if they're connected to the internet. But even without being connected to the internet, any kind of network, whether it is worldwide or not, easy to interfere with. So this is absolutely like boomer talk.
Reliable. So I just think he fought the wrong argument. If he said
this is pure ignorance,
suppression of
absolute ignorance on the topic.
Was outrageous and unacceptable, I'm 100% behind him. But by building this spurious argument that it was all rigged through voting systems and so on, he lost me.
Well, I agree about the voting systems, but when they went into the machines, I think that was ridiculous. However, what has to be accounted for is that in 2016, 35% of the votes were cast by mail. By 2020, it was 70% because of the pandemic. So you doubled the amount of votes that happened by mail. They called it in-person early voting. They called it a variety of different things. And the other thing that they changed is they solicited the mail-in ballots. So they sent ballots to people's houses. And once you do that, I mean, you have absentee balloting normally, but it's a process. You got to give your social security number, your ID. They send it to you. There's regulations in place. This is an election where they double the amount of mail-in votes, and they sent ballots to people's houses. And when you do that, you break the chain of custody. So they send the ballot out, and then they tell people return it at a 24-hour ballot drop site that's unsupervised. There's thousands of them, and they're going to hope that all the ballots that find their way into these drop boxes were filled out by the person that the ballot was intended for. And I know that didn't happen. I'll tell you why. My uncle has been dead for 26 years. He got a ballot in 2020. It was mailed to my parents' house. And that was happening in nursing homes. That was happening in apartment buildings.
But you also know that every independent body that has looked at this has concluded there was no widespread rigging.
There was no independent body. There was literally no independent body. The bodies that analyze this, the organizations that analyze this, they have massive bias against Trump. So again, fake news, bro. Like, absolute fake news.
A free and fair election, and Trump lost.
No, absolutely not true.
You should stop going about it anyway, because he won back the White House in 2024. By your as you.
But we lost 4 or 5 years of our lives throughout the world. We had insane. All the people that died in Afghanistan and all these bad decisions that Joe Biden made. Are you ignoring all of that? You care so much about the suffering of Jewish people and all this bullshit, and you don't care about those people that died from all these bad decisions that Joe Biden made. Even the migrants that invaded America during the Joe Biden presidency, and now they are suffering these attacks from ICE and so on. They are suffering from a bad decision that Biden made. So again, it seems like you really care about people suffering when it was about Jewish people, but when it is about American troops or even migrants going to America, it seems like you don't care anymore. Kind of strange, let's be honest.
That's been so keen to tell me, move on, right? No one wants to look back too far.
That's a separate argument. I mean, you can say that he should stop talking about it, but whether it was rigged or not is actually relevant to what happened on January 6th. Because what happened on January 6th is people were outraged about it. People were furious that, and by the way, there's never been an independent ballot audit in all the states where there was allegedly rigging. That has not happened. And certainly it did not happen up until January 6th. And people said, this is ridiculous. They're stealing it.
Honestly, if either you or Donald Trump or anybody else wants to show me, I said this to him on interview last, if you show me the actual hardcore, incontrovertible evidence, then great. I've never seen it. Joe Rogan asked him. He didn't produce it with Joe Rogan. It's just never been produced. But look, I'm going to label the point on that.
There were tons of evidence. The machines malfunctioning, the extra bail-in ballots at 2 in the morning.
And about you,
tons and tons of examples like that.
Irrevocable? Do you feel now, as we head towards the year of the midterms, that it's time to now look at who his successor will be, and who do you think that person should be?
Well, it's not irrevocable, but I am very pessimistic about this administration. And succession is something that I've been interested in for as long as I've been doing the show. And I think it's very clear that they are grooming J.D. Vance to be that successor. And by they, I mean Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, Peter Thiel. There seems to be an organization that was put in place roughly around 2022 when Peter Thiel was very active in the midterm elections. He spent, I think, over $30 million, $15 million for Vance, $15 million for Masters. Spent a lot of money in a lot of other congressional races, trying to unseat the Republicans that voted for impeachment in 21, and also building out a media market, building out a patronage network, funding things like Passage Press, Sovereign House, a number of other projects to create sort of like a self-contained media ecosystem. And Vance is clearly the selected nominee. That is who the interests want. And they've been pushing for him very strongly. So I think he's the heir apparent right now. There's a forceful push. I've heard good things about him. I've heard bad things about him too. And where I think it needs to go is I think we need to return to the message from 2016, what Trump said in the first election, which is we need to drain the swamp. We need to get the money out of politics, the super PACs, the special interests, put America first in foreign policy and the wars, close the border and deport the illegals, and reindustrialize America, bring back manufacturing, bring back jobs. We're in this Cold War with China. We need America to have productive capacity again. We need America to have wealth. So I think whoever is going to bring us back to that, that's who I'm going to support, and I haven't seen enough from Vance yet.
You called J.D. Vance's wife a Jeet. What does that mean?
A slur for Indians.
Why would you use that?
Well, you want the honest answer?
Because you're racist?
No, there's actually a different reason. The reason why I said that, if you watch the whole show, did you watch that whole show?
No, even did you use that slur? I'm just curious why you would use that about a woman with her heritage.
I'll tell you, there's a really important reason why, and this is why context matters. If you look online at the people that are supporting J.D. Vance the most, they are racist. They're racist also, let's say. And they look at someone like myself, I don't support J.D. Vance, and they say, you're brown, you're a third worldist. They are gleefully participating in the cruelty, you could say the performative cruelty of the Trump administration. They say, you're going back, you have 100 days until you're being deported, you're going into crystal. And then they tell us to vote for J.D. Vance. And so all I did on the show is I said, you have basically racist chuds that post memes about Indians all day on Twitter, memes about third worldists and Palestinians even. But then they want to turn around and support a guy who has said on Twitter, how dare you say I'm racist? I have non-white kids and I'm in an interracial marriage. And all I said is I just said that's a little ironic. I said that's hypocritical. And Vance is going to have to explain to all of his supporters who have gassed him up as the real, the real mass deportation candidate. He's going to have to explain to them what's going on with that. What is with the contradiction? Because
and you don't feel any accountability for the millions of young people that will hear you use that slur and think it's fine to use it?
No, I think that's ridiculous.
Okay. Let's take a final break. I come back with a little kind of summary of how you think this interview has gone for you. Okay. If you're a fan of epic fantasy, Arthurian legend, or just epic storytelling, I have some good news for you. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, is the Daily Wire's new 7-part cinematic series, and it's so good, it will shock you. The top-quality reimagining of the King Arthur legend, which follows a young Merlin in a Britain torn apart by warring factions and standing on the brink of a new era, the rise of Christianity. Daily Wire Plus, all access members, get the first 2 full episodes on Christmas Day. Not a teaser, not a sneak peek, episodes 1 and 2, a full month before anybody else. So if you want to go ahead with the story, now's the time to join, and with the sale happening right now, you can get 50% off memberships, including the all-access plan. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, premieres on January the 22nd, but all access members can start watching on Christmas morning. Head to dailywireplus.com so you don't miss out. Okay, Nick Fuentes, we've been talking for nearly 2 hours. What is your view of how the interview has gone?
I think it was great. Honestly, I think it was a tough interview. You're a tough interviewer. But I don't think there were surprises. I will not say it was an ambush because it wasn't. I sort of anticipated that you would make some choices about how you wanted it to go, and I was fine with it. So
very low IQ takes.
As a Catholic,
very
you're
low
aware
IQ
the Jerusalem
takes.
Post has recently called on the Pope to openly condemn you. Would it matter to you if the Pope did? He's an American Pope, obviously.
Who cares about the
It would be
Pope?
very disheartening, yes.
Who cares about the Pope?
Why?
Because he's our spiritual leader. He's the head of the church. He's the vicar of Christ. So if he condemned me, that would be very disheartening. And it would depend upon what he would say exactly. But yeah, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that
If
at
he
all.
condemned you because you've openly admitted to being a racist on this show?
Well, this racist. I would be disappointed if he said that because I think that word racist, it means something different to everybody. And
yeah, exactly.
So I think
there's no value. There's no value.
Have you ever been in love in your life?
No, like romantically, no.
Yeah, never.
No.
Do you think that's part of the problem?
What's the problem?
Why you are the way you are?
Oh, and what's the way I am? What are you trying to say?
I've given people
a little bit sociopath, a little bit narcissistic.
I don't think I have a problem. I think I'm cheerful, boisterous. Unlike you,
flamboyant. I'm
willing to be a little provocative. Well, I guess you're willing to be provocative, but I'm willing to be very provocative, and I'm a free thinker. And I don't like to be tone policed. I don't like to be told about, people are going to tone police and play moral cop about you can't make this joke or you can't make this statement. And I think that's just about being intellectually open. I'm a believer in openness.
Very good. I think you should be perfectly free to express yourself exactly how you see fit. My problem is how you see fit with some of the things that you say. And we've been through a lot of them, and I think people who don't know you very well would have been shocked in parts and surprised in other parts. But in totality, they can see you for what you are. I think we've got a lot nearer to what the real Nick Fuentes is in the last 2 hours than we probably have seen from your other recent interviews. Would you agree?
No, I mean, the clip thing, we've done the clip thing. We've all seen the clip show. Everyone's seen the clips. You think you're the first one to do the ADL rap sheet. So here you said this, and then here you said that. I've been playing that game for 10 years. So this is honestly more of the same, to tell you the truth.
Nick Fuentes, I appreciate you coming on Uncensored. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, my thanks to Nick Fuentes, and my thanks to the hundreds of thousands of you watching this special live episode of Piers Uncensored. As I said during the interview, I think it was firm but fair, but you can all make up your own minds. If you like what you do, please like and subscribe to the channel.
Okay, there you go. That was very interesting, and like Piers said here, like and subscribe if you like this type of content. And yeah, hopefully we'll have smarter takes next time, because this was very, very low. But yeah, it was fun to watch. I hope you guys had some good time. I hope you guys learned something as well. And I'll see you guys later. Take care.